Hey.
Here you go. How are you? I'm here to do this.
I know.
Oh, really? But all of a sudden. Right.
Yes.
Do you have the ordinance in there? So I was requested to pay it.
How long did the last one go?
The last council, it was pretty brief, actually. About 47 minutes. Yeah, it wasn't bad.
All right, we're all set to go.
Okay.
Recording stream started.
Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah. I'll hang out around for 10-15 minutes. And
Okay.
just monitor it.
Okay.
I'll close this.
Okay. Are you ready? One's off. I see a green light.
They were off last time and they picked up the audio, okay, on the Zoom, yeah. Albert might be able to.
You can go ahead and let people in.
Okay. Okay, everybody's there.
You ready? Yeah. You ready? Susan, you ready? Yeah. Going to call to order the meeting for the Town of Kensington meeting for Monday, July 11th, Town Council. Everyone will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and liberty and justice for all. Next item on the agenda is a moment of silence. Is there anyone that we need to uplift? So you need hands. We could bow our heads for a moment of silence. Thank you very much. Okay, council, you all received a copy of the minutes. I don't think I saw any corrections in the email. There are no corrections. I need a motion to approve.
I'll move to approve the minutes from the June 2022 town council meeting,
June 7th.
June 7th.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. Auditing committee, Matt?
I'd like to acknowledge the appointment of Jeff Capron, Paul Sexton, and Carrie Thompson to the auditing committee for a one-year term. We'd also like to thank Leslie Olson, who decided not to remain on the auditing committee, so Paul Sexton will be serving her place for next year.
Will we do an appointment swearing in?
Yes, yeah, we
Okay.
can do one later on.
Okay.
Prior to the meetings. so.
Okay, that's fine. I'll swear in all three. Okay, very good. Council, any questions? No? Okay. All right, so move on to number 2.
Sean Geiser is here for the council to discuss a proposal to hold a number of concerts on Howard Avenue through the fall. Sean, if you'd like to kind of make some comments. Council received the proposal and it's also available to the public. Come up to the podium. Sure.
And just give your name for the record.
Sean Geiser, with Gigs. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. I probably should have brought copies for everyone. I'm sorry that I didn't. But essentially, the basis of the proposal is so Gigs Courtyard can host a series of 10 Saturdays at the venue. And in response to some of the feedback that we've received from meeting with Matt and Tracy, we decided to pull back from the number of large-scale concerts that we've had in the past. In the fall, we had 4, and in this fall, we're aiming for probably 2, no more than 3, but probably 2. But what we'd like to do is on those other Saturdays, be open with a totally different format that's more inclusive, where there's not a ticket, where it's all ages, hopefully, and no cover, so anyone in the community can come and enjoy these concerts. We're hoping that there'll be more acoustic nature, not a humongous sound system with a drum set and loud noises, so as not to disrupt any neighbors at any point during these other 8 Saturdays that we're hoping to host events. We're hoping to have more seating and tables for people to sit and enjoy, as opposed to a standing room only large scale concert. It's more of a aiming to have less capacity than those events. But again, in response to the feedback we've gotten, try to be more inclusive on those nights, so people don't have to purchase a ticket to come. They can just, anyone can come. And in that spirit of inclusivity, we've spoken with both Frankly Pizza and with Baby Cat Brewery to incorporate more Kensington businesses by, instead of having a rotating food truck, working with Frankly Pizza on a regular basis for them to be the primary food vendor, to collaborate with our neighbor business, as well as with Baby Cat, instead of purchasing craft beer from the county, focusing complete that craft beer from all around the country, from the county. The idea is to still sell most likely some national brand beer, but as far as craft beer goes, focus completely on Baby Cat with the collaboration where they would be on site every Saturday, serving a rotating draft list of their different selections. And again, the spirit there is inclusivity within Kensington, building that community of not only attendees, but business owners, and try to bring the best of what Kensington has together so everyone can enjoy it all at once. That's the basis of our evolution of what we're trying to do with that venue, is pulling back a little bit on those large scale concerts, but then again leaning in a little more on being open more often, and hoping that in response to some of the feedback we've gotten, that everyone feels welcome and included if they so choose to come and experience the concert, partake in food and beverage, and some games. We're going to have cornhole and ring toss and a couple other games where all ages of people could play while they're there, to round out the experience. So that's the basis of it, and of course I'm here to ask permission and to collaborate with all of you and field any questions and see if there's any conversation that can be had to advance hopefully what I feel is a really special growing part of our community that we've gotten 99.7% maybe excellent feedback from our community, people who largely attend from Kensington, who walk or take a quick Uber. And the response has been really, really great. So we're just trying to lean in and keep growing. So that's why I'm here.
So I'm understanding it's like supposed to be family friendly.
Yes, that's the hope. That's the
Okay.
hope. We'd like to be, we'll obviously card at the door with wristbands for people who would like to purchase beer and wine and other alcohol. We'd like to be all ages all the time, but if there's a time that we would need to shift that, we're open to that. Understandably. So really that's one of the issues that I wanted to see what you guys thought is what would be ideal for the town to be able to have it be a family-friendly environment. Especially since what we're hoping to do is, in the time that we're open in those 4 hours, on a regular basis, offer that as a chance for students at gigs to play on a regular basis for that first hour or hour and a half or so, to get the night rolling with families coming out and enjoying that more of like a family-friendly concert with more either children playing solo or with one of the teachers at gigs playing with a series of children. For instance, if I were to play an acoustic night there, I would probably spend the first hour and a half or so calling up anywhere from 8 to 12 or more kids to perform a song or two. And hopefully all of those families and their friends would come out and enjoy that experience with, again, tables, seats, food and beverage, games. And then as the night went on, I would probably feature just myself or other professional musicians up there to kind of, as if there was openers and the headliner. So that's the idea with all ages. But again, open to whatever feedback you guys have about concerns or questions about how that would work or what you would prefer we do as far as logistics go with that aspect.
I've heard your students, they're very good.
Thanks. There's
Yeah, they are.
a couple parents in the room that probably agree.
I have no musically inclined children, but I've heard a lot of your kids play. They,
Thanks.
at Pumpkin Rock and Roll.
Right.
They're actually very good.
Yeah, thanks.
So,
Yeah, that's been the heartbeat of gigs since we started in 06 was the music lesson for kids, as you know, and we've evolved and grown into event production largely over the years, but really we've never lost that heartbeat of children musical education and the performances that go with that to build confidence and community building and all sorts of things like that. So I see this as a way for us to expand on what we do with the Pumpkin Rock and Roll just once a year. And again, we're really excited this year to get back in person at Warner Circle and do that again. But instead of having it just be that one time a year, having it be more of a regular thing where kids would have more chances to perform and play in front of their family and friends.
and the groups after the kids or the first act, I know noise is obviously a big issue.
Right.
And, but my first and only concert was this past one that you had. I never attended one. And so this would not be as loud.
It wouldn't be anywhere near as loud. It would, and that would be by design. Instead of bringing in an extremely large production with a huge stage and really loud speakers and a full 6-piece band with amplifiers and drum sets, the idea would be, someone like me could get up there with an acoustic guitar with just a couple speakers, turn to a volume that would satisfy the needs of the attendees at the courtyard, but it wouldn't be much louder in theory than what happens every Saturday morning at the farmers market, where it doesn't. The idea there is that the decibel level goal would be to make sure that nobody would be bothered on those 8 or so nights where we wouldn't be doing a large scale ticketed event. We certainly want to keep doing those large scale ticketed events, but in response to, what we've heard is that, a couple people said it's a little loud and they, but again, what I've been hearing is that, those are people who didn't want to maybe purchase a $30 or $40 ticket. My hope is that those people would be happy about coming for free on a regular basis to have a big community open air concert and food and beverage experience. My hope is that they get into that and we would welcome them, and the hope is that they would come regularly and enjoy those nights and see the value that we'd be bringing to the community.
Right. Okay. And then you're going till 10:30 though still?
That was the hope.
Okay.
But again, we're certainly interested in a collaboration with everybody, that our goal is certainly not to upset anybody. But yes, if we would like to stay open until 10:30 on those nights, just from a sustainability economical standpoint, given that we're not charging, we're not selling tickets, and we're also not even charging a cover, no $5, $10 cover. It's just come on, come all, come in.
Right.
Really the only revenue stream that we be able to, because it's going to still cost us a lot of money to put these on. The way we'd be able to sustain this economically is with beverage sales and food sales and maybe some merchandise sales. And with our analyzing what we've done with our previous events, it really in the later portion of the night is where a lot of that revenue comes in.
Right. Do you expect a kind of a change when the kids are done and you come on, there be changes?
Yeah, I see
Clientele? Or?
yeah, I do actually. We certainly haven't done one in this capacity, but what I see happening is, again, using me as an example, if I were to, and I'm hoping to play a couple times this fall in the acoustic fashion. I see me inviting upwards of 12 or 15 kids to play 1 or 2 songs with me for that first hour and a half.
Right.
And as we've experienced with some of the other times we do that, either at the Punk and Rock and Roll or some of our other gigs-based performances. Certainly families come out to support their 8, 9, 10, 11, 12-year-olds who are getting up there and being brave and singing. And a lot of times local family and friends come and support them as well. So I see that first hour, hour and a half, 2 hours being very, lots of kids, lots of families. And then I kind of see them naturally kind of moving on from away from the venue, maybe at 8 o'clock or 8:30 once it starts getting dark. And again, if there is a need to have the all ages change at a certain time where we have our security, our professional security, communicate that kindly, and with our promotions, making it very clear that there's a family time and then, that's possible. But I think it's gonna happen naturally anyway, and I don't see this being, I don't know how late you stayed at the
I stayed through the whole thing.
Okay, so I don't anticipate, we sold over 500 tickets to that, so I don't anticipate any of these evenings having that many people.
Right.
And again, with the map that we've designed, lots of tables, lots of chairs, it's gonna be a completely different vibe on those evenings. So even if some kids were there a little later, it wouldn't be like as much of a Merriweather Post Pavilion sort of vibe, which is all ages, by the way. And I took my wife and I took her kids to the AJR concert. Seemed like a third of the people were kids under the age of whatever. But, so that's the hope, is that first phase is very young families, and then as the night progresses, I see more single individuals and or I don't know, people coming without their children.
Sure.
That's the idea. By plan, that's what we're hoping to accomplish.
Okay. Council, do you want to comment? Do you want any questions?
I've got only about 15 questions.
Okay, fine, I'm ready.
No, so you said ideally 2 ticketed events, then the other 8, assuming 2 is the number of ticketed, 8. So that's the 10 consecutive Saturdays. Are you still thinking then coming into the next part of the year in spring, doing additional ticketed, like what's the vision for the whole year?
The vision is to be having a fall season as well as a spring season. Shutting down in the winter because it's cold outside, and shutting down in the summer because
It's vacation.
it's vacation. Yeah, and just that supply and demand, we kind of thought that the fall and the spring seemed like perfect seasons to engage the community, and focusing on those hopefully 20 weeks a year with the long extended breaks in between would build that demand for people to want to come back, as opposed to asking you guys for us to be able to do it every single Saturday. I don't think we could sustain that yet, and I'm not sure if the community would be able to sustain it either. But I think what we'd like to do is see how this, with permission, see how this would go in the fall, and then of course, like we've always done, meet with you guys and see what the town feedback is and react and respond in a way that's always evolving to meet those needs of the community and make sure we're doing things that people like as opposed to dislike. So our goal would be to do the same sort of schedule in the spring, but first things first, I think the trial in the fall would be the litmus test for how well it worked. Is everyone okay with it? Do people enjoy it? How can we improve those sorts of things?
What, in the event of inclement weather, what's the plan?
Well, that's the thing, is when you do the big ticketed event where you sell 500 tickets and people have the buy-in for the ticket, and I'm spending 5 figures plus to bring in a humongous sound system and the lights and the everything else. It's extremely risky, and knock on wood, we were 7 for 7 so far on great weather when we've done the large scale events. With these, and I hope that continues, obviously, but on these other 8 that we're talking about that are a little more low key, we would just make it clear that we wouldn't be open that night if it's rainy.
Yep.
And it wouldn't be as much of a financial hit for us. It would still cost us, but in the event that happened, we would simply say, hey, catch you next week. We have to cancel the Sean Geyser show this Saturday because it's gonna be terrible out.
That's the same thing we do on Saturday morning for the KHS.
Exactly, same thing.
Inclement
And
weather,
that's-
we can't.
That's one of the things I thought was good about this, is that it takes a little bit of the pressure off.
You haven't made a lot of investment as far as the setup.
Right, because as far as the audio systems go, with this more broken down format, Gigs owns those things, as opposed to having to outsource a vendor to come in. We don't own a 20 by 16 stage or 24 by 16 stage. Those are things that we outsource and pay for. So the risk is, financial risk is lower on these evenings that I'm proposing.
So, one, I really deeply appreciate that you've already reached out to Franklin and Baby Cat, and trying to keep you local. Is there thought to, would people be allowed to bring outside food into the venue?
That's a good question. We spent some time in the Outer Banks in Kerala recently, and there's this place called Beer Garden. It's so simple. It's an outdoor bar with tables and chairs, and it's beautiful and super chill. And what they do is they have a pizza restaurant next door and a barbecue restaurant on the other side. And their policy, they don't have a kitchen. They say, you can't bring coolers. We're not a picnic site. But if you buy food from one of these 2 neighboring businesses, feel free to bring it in and eat it. And but you can't come in with like a cooler and so I thought that was kind of a cool concept, and that's what got me started with thinking about working with Frankly. I suppose we'd be open to having food from other local restaurants be brought in, but the concept there was to, I've known both Terry at Baby Cat and Frank with Frankly Pizza for over a decade, and the idea would be to have it be more of an official collaboration where this is the official food of the venue on those evenings, and this is the official craft brewery on those evenings. So I'm not opposed to expanding that, but the hope was that, in my meetings with Frank, it was, my intention would be to work solely with Frank and Kate on that, especially given their proximity to the venue. And just the mutual benefits of the ease of how we would be able to do that. It might get a little confusing if there was a lot of restaurants and checking to see if it really was from that restaurant or that kind of thing.
Well, and at least my next question, which is, so sorry, that was a separate question.
That's okay. That's great.
How to prevent outside beverages from coming in. So I know you'll have a security plan with ABS.
Yep.
Alcoholic beverage service, but what is that plan? Can you just, for the sake of everybody here, to prevent things from coming in and from the alcohol sold on site from leaving, which
Sure.
would be part of your security.
For sure. Well, that's part of with the footprint of the venue, and that's what we call a courtyard, which is very blunt. This is what this is. There's no way to get out, really. There are two ways with the egress by the side driveway, and then the entrance. You know, and what we do as part of the production, we put up a big pole with a big black curtain right in that driveway entrance to gigs, and we have a professional security guard who is 2.5 times my size, who was the head of security at the bullpen down at by Nats Park, where I've done all the booking production since 2008, a good friend of mine. And you know, he and his team would be checking at the only entrance exit areas, not letting people bring in outside food and beverage, and not allowing them to leave with said.
No, you cannot bring in the box juices or the fish crackers.
Just gonna leave it there the night before.
Yeah, in the bushes.
Real quick, I need, we'll call it like your operational plan here. There's just two questions that you talked about bathrooms. Going up to the second floor, you can enter and use the bathrooms inside.
Right.
Are there any other bathrooms?
Yes, there are. And that was one of the complaints we got from attendees was bathroom lines are long, bathrooms were super gross. You know, and anybody who goes to an outside music festival on hour
They should expect.
2, yeah, you should expect to have to wipe down the seat before they, so whatever. But it's also really expensive for us on a regular basis to bring porta potties in and have them removed right away. You know, when you rent porta potties for months at a time, it's different, but when it's bring them in, get them out within a 24-hour period, it gets a little pricey, especially if you have to get 2, 3, 4 of them, and one of them a handicapped, et cetera. So there are 2 on that map. You'll see there's 2 that are within the antique village that we used when we did Tribute 21 last year, our big charity event that we hosted. We had those bathrooms open, and it was really, really helpful because they're real bathrooms. There's 2 of them. They're right there on the main floor. And then the other idea with this is we had done within the second floor of gigs and those balconies that had been VIP areas in some of these ticketed concerts. Our idea would be to have that be open access to anybody, and there are 2 bathrooms within gigs. So if anyone needed to cool off or sit on a couch or just be indoors, the idea would be, you know, they could hang out inside of gigs the whole time if they'd like. But additionally, there are 2 bathrooms within gigs and then 2 bathrooms in that corner on the map within the antique village. And so our hope is that we, with 4 bathrooms, we usually have done 3 in the past with 400 or 500 people. With our, most likely having closer to 200 or 250 people, we think those 4 bathrooms would satisfy the need for bathrooms, but also be a step up from the 4 potties.
Speaking of step up, is it accessible?
If you, I have to check, and if we have to, we can
do a ramp there.
We could try to do something to make it so. I mean, I have a daughter with special needs, so I'm very in tune with that, and we would do whatever we needed to do. If that means that we would have to bring in one handicap porta potty and find a place for it, if that was the need, we figure out a way to do that. I certainly would not. Last thing in the world I want to do right now in my life is make it difficult for anyone with disabilities to use the bathroom.
Then my only last question on this is, it indicates a liquor bar upstairs on the balcony.
Well, a little misleading. What we had talked about doing, there's a portion of gigs called the workshop. It's on the first floor. We had traditionally used that as the green room for the artists, hospitality, and just a place for the bands to kind of take a breather, or earlier in the day, keep their bags and after sound check. What we're hoping to do is that area where the stage was in front of the ivy wall, have an outside bar, but have the liquor and wine and those sorts of drinks be kind of prepared inside to actually have a little more organized, instead of a pop-up bar in the corner, a little more easy on a more regular basis every Saturday to make some of the footprint in there in that space, house all the accoutrement for the bars, you know, the beverages themselves. So it would be a little easier. That's not a bar on the balcony. That's more of
Yeah, I know what you
the
mean.
behind the scenes
Yep.
bar that we'd have staff that would be serving outside, but the nuts and bolts of all the logistics of running that bar would be inside where no one else would be. It would just be staff. And the idea is that the Baby Cat Craft Brewery would be within the courtyard
Yes.
in a different spot. So there'd be two different bars, one of them only serving craft beer from Baby Cat with rotating drafts, and then the other bar with wine, liquor, and maybe some of that more generic beer if people wanted that.
I mean, I'm sure others have questions too.
Nate?
I mean, you asked, Connor asked a lot. First of all, thanks, Sean. I think this is, I mean, I really appreciate you coming and presenting it. I think it's a wonderful opportunity to integrate community, a level inclusive approach to the businesses. I mean, I hope we find a way to make this work and test it out. And I like your idea of it being a pilot or a trial in the fall and then visiting and evolving. I think it would be a great addition to the community. I know that there were some residents last meeting that raised concerns about noise, and Connor raised the point about the security plan. I think my only question and concern at this point is some residents raised issues around when the patrons left and the noise and the intoxication and some of the, I guess some of the clients, participants. If that's going to be a potential issue it's first of all, it's not good in general.
Right.
How does it get enforced? What's the enforcement plan or the security plan around that? Especially if it's attracting people that are not walkers, taking a risk. Sure. And then if it's every weekend, is that, I could see some residents being concerned about that being a constant thing to deal with right there in the neighborhood as people are departing. I guess, what's the transition from like the concert to the closing or when people are leaving?
Sure. I think there's a big difference between a 500 capacity ticketed rock concert outdoors. I think people have a tendency to get at it a little more. I'm envisioning more, if you've ever been to Denison's Brewery in Silver Spring, people don't get at it as hard. They're sitting down, they're not rocking with the band and slugging beers as much as they are sitting down and having conversations. And so my hope is that that those complaints on those few nights that we've done those larger concerts wouldn't apply on these more mellow nights, just by the nature of these mellow nights. The goal there is not to have a huge loud rock concert every single night for 10 Saturdays straight. It's more to have a place where a couple hundred residents and friends and family in Kensington can go hang out outside, have a couple beers, have some pizza, enjoy some great live music. And I, certainly it's one of those things that if on our first acoustic night there was some issues, we would adjust and we would do anything on the front end to try to, temper those worries. If that meant more security, if that meant, I'm not quite sure, but we'd be open to doing whatever we could on our end. Certainly the last thing we would want is for anyone to be disgruntled. People, they drink too much, to be loud and disruptive and littering, or any of the things that may happen in that situation. My hope is that just by the nature of what we're trying to do on those off nights, that it wouldn't be.
Is there anything that is in the plan for the 2 or 3 nights that you would have a bigger concert to step up security?
We sure could add more security guards. I mean, what we're finding is that when you do a big concert like that, it's if it's successful and there's 300, 400, 500 people who paid for a ticket who are also purchasing alcohol, there's a budget to amp up security, and we'd be more than happy to to be receptive to suggestions on how many. Even if they're outside of the venues, I'd be more than happy to ramp it up. And our capacity for that is huge. I mean, I know tons of professional security guards who join the team.
I think it would also be worthy for you all to look at contracting with Montgomery County Police.
Good, yeah.
Outside the venue.
That's really smart, yeah.
For, especially as the venue closes. Because what I am happy to see is that I have been to several of them. It's a lot of nearby neighbors, walking, but it just could be something that.
Yeah, it's great. I think we've done that at Pumpkin Rock and Roll, I believe, where you literally, you pay for it, right? You pay the
It's not-
county police and it's X amount an hour for X amount of cops. And so we'll plan on doing that on those 2 nights for sure, happily. And that's great because people, I mean, let's be honest, you walk out and you see a police officer, you're gonna
Pull your act together.
pull your act together a little bit, So that's a great suggestion, Connor. Thanks. And we'll add that to the plan on those 2 nights. I had a question for you all, and part of with the nature of the pop-up with tables, I had grand ideas of having, picnic tables with epoxy, with local stickers under, having a really branded Kensington sort of picnic tables and such, but in doing the math, buying the picnic tables,
Storing the pictures.
transporting them to storage, everything in, out, it just wasn't sustainable. And what we're hoping to do is, like we've done in past events with the town, use some of the tables and chairs that we have at Pumpkin Rock and Roll and other events. And our idea is to, kind of like when you eat crabs, and you sit down with the big brown paper over them, having the right footprint on those, tons of those pieces of paper, the right rectangles, and kind of stencil spray painting certain branding on them, and then getting the tables and chairs popped right up real quick, put in those brown things over top of them, so it has that branded feel to them as opposed to fold up tables and such. So my hope is that the town would be open to allowing us to use those tables and chairs on these 8 nights. So we would be able to have tables and chairs easily in and out of the venue to kind of bypass that whole cluster of how you get 15 really heavy picnic tables in and out of the courtyard every single Saturday, and where to store them.
Well, it's an additional expense that you don't necessarily need, so, I mean, we have this available, kept the orange, yellow chairs on purpose, so we get on them out.
Cool, great,
So,
thanks. That's really helpful with the business plan. That really takes the idea with these other 8 nights, like I tried to explain, is kind of reining in the expenses, but amplifying the vibe at the same time. So you get the best of both worlds, and that would be a huge asset to us. So thank you. Another thing, Tracy, I included there, I don't know if you saw, but we would like to be dog friendly for friendly dogs. I think that would be pretty cool.
I.e. my dog.
Yes, but I mean, you go to certain things like that, and certain breweries, you go in, there's a bunch of dogs, and that, I really see that as something that hopefully people would enjoy, and we would do all the things necessary to water bowls, whatever it is, maybe certain areas for them, whatever that looks like. That's I'm a dog lover, and I think that would be a cool addition to the vibe.
I would push for, I mean, if you're gonna do that, and I love dogs, I think everybody here does, but kid-friendly dogs, just
Right.
because the amount of children that could be showing up.
Yeah,
that
well,
you
we've
really
seen-
emphasize family dogs.
Right, in our research, we've seen a lot of dog friendly for friendly dogs,
Right.
with a very strict. There's no war. It's just we recognize that the dog isn't friendly.
Wow.
See you
A
later.
lot of dogs are spooked by children
Right.
that
Right.
are good dogs, they're not around kids.
Sure. So yes, whatever language we'd have to include. I just thought we all thought that would be kind of a nice touch, and you just again doubling down on that. Come on, bring your family. Enjoy your family out here with
And
us.
dogs like lower decibel music.
Right, exactly. That matches as well. And so
So does that mean if it's gonna be kid friendly, they have to be friendly kids?
good question.
Something like that.
Good question.
Dave, did you have any other questions? And did you wanna ask
Yeah.
questions?
Sure.
Thank you. thanks for sharing the materials in advance. and
Sure.
also so that we can get them out to the community. I love the fact that Gigs is part of the community and that we've had events that you've created that are, provide an opportunity to enjoy live music and people together. I also have a son that performs and he's been to his performances, not through Gigs, but so I get the vibe you're going for. I actually just went to something like that at a brewery where my son performed and he's 11 years old.
Awesome.
And I was also.
Sounds like we need open mic night.
Yeah. So I really, I think there's a lot of potential for doing this type of programming to bring the community together, as you say. At the same time, I am a little concerned about the timing and having it go until 10:30. To me, that feels a little late, even if it's quieter, lower decibel, given the concentration of residences and given the goal to have it be family friendly. I think you're likely to get a different vibe later in the evening. And so I'm wondering if there's a way, also I've seen with some events we've done 4-hour events, like even the Juneteenth event recently where we had good turnout. Certainly you saw things lagging by the 4th hour. And so in some ways, I'm wondering if you could still meet your monetary goals, revenue on beer, pizza, merch,
right,
in a shorter time period, knowing that people are going to come, they're going to bring their kids performing, they're going to bring friends and family, people are going to linger, people are going to have, easy opportunity to purchase on site. I think that would fit better with an inclusive, family friendly feel is to shorten the event to more like 6 to 9, 9:30. And also on the inclusivity note, I would also encourage you to look at different ways of marketing and reaching other parts of the community, which we've been trying to do with our events, getting into the apartment buildings, getting into the new building, for example, on Knowles or Kensington House, and look at that this is a way to bring those residents and community events as well.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, I mean, with the no tickets, no cover, that's our goal is to have it be an open door for everyone, not just people who could afford a $50 ticket or a $30 ticket. So as far as marketing goes, of course, yeah, any way we could help in that collaboration to get the word out to everybody, because that is really, inclusivity is really the point of this evolution here. And it's been in response to some of the talks we've had with Tracy and Matt. As far as the earlier end, I suppose, on these more acoustic nights, that's a little more feasible.
Oh yeah, I know.
On the 2 or so big ticketed events, it would be really tough for us if we had to end at 9 or 9:30. So maybe there's a happy medium there, or maybe there's, I'm even open to having out of those 8, maybe 4 of them are very family-based gigs, children performing family-based, and maybe the other 4 are 21 plus or something like that maybe could go a little bit later. Just to, I understand what you're saying. If we're open until 10:30 and it's all ages, there might be a situation where,
Nobody's there after 8.
yeah, well,
And I really meant it as for the acoustic family type events.
Mhm.
I get that if you're doing a rock show and you've got, it's a different type of event. And as someone who lives nearby and has gone to the events, or even if I haven't gone, I hear the noise. For a couple of times of a season, I'm willing to have that noise. Because
Sure.
I get that's what a rock show is. But for more of the acoustic family friendly, especially if they're every Saturday night, that's why I was thinking maybe shifting a little earlier.
sure. Well, we'd be open to, again, the last thing we want to do is, bother anybody with what we're trying to do. And if, there's a way to figure out what works for everybody, we're open to that discussion. So, I mean, my hope is that we can stay open a little later than 9:30. Maybe 10 is a nice time for these more acoustic nights, but again, I'd be open to if, instead of having gigs kids perform at each of the 8 for the first hour and a half and having them all be family friendly, maybe it's better promotions to say these 4, bring your family, these 4 don't, you know, and maybe those 4 that are not family friendly, maybe you would allow those to go a little later. And if that was the case, 9 or 9:30 on those other 4 would be a little easier to withstand on our end. So we're open to whatever works best for everyone.
So I feel like we're not setting anything in stone here. You want to do something that works, you don't want to have to go in, you don't want to keep going. So I hear a lot of willingness to work with us, we work with you, we figure out, you know, fall trial doesn't really work that well, but maybe spring trial.
Sure.
I don't know, 6 to 10 would be 4 hours if you like, but maybe, you know, ending, you know, I'm not asking for a commitment on this at all tonight, I'm just saying. Hear what things are like, just like, you know, the alcohol security, it needs to adjust. And in aspect of things, since your son is a guitar player somewhere else, have you
Yeah.
thought of, oh, yeah? Can you get a piano?
Yeah, one of these evenings, we're talking about doing like a dueling piano situation, which is really fun. And
But I mean, would you allow non-gig students to come as well? And the answer would be, no, I just sort of feel like I hear a lot of, you know, I don't know, there are other.
Possibly, I mean, obviously, part of this for us is to, you know, as gigs, the business, offer our clientele a wonderful experience as a perk of coming to gigs.
Yeah.
So I don't think I'd showcase a competitive studios. We wouldn't have like a back to rock night or anything like that, but sure, like, you know, if and your child wanted to do like, yeah, join the squad, you know, like literally, I guess the best way to answer it is it's just if we had 10 gig students playing on an evening and there are a couple other kids that lived in Kensington that wanted to perform, of course.
I'm not talking about giving a platform here. I mean, if you're setting it up, yeah, the show spot. I'm just saying, I'm thinking more of the kids in the community that might want.
Sure, and as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't have to be limited to just children who play, you know, young children who play guitar or piano. I mean, maybe there's some other groups in the community that, whether it's, I don't even know, but school bands or something like that, if it's early enough and it's the right volume levels, I'm not opposed to having all sorts of diverse musical programming of all ages. So I'm certainly open to the possibility.
Town council barbershop.
Yeah, there you go. We're really doing like the essence there that I'm trying to promote there is, you know, gigs, Baby Cat, frankly, Gigs Courtyard, come get the best of what Kensington has to offer in one place, in a safe place, local place, where, you know, the idea is you walk in and you know more than 50% of the people that are in the venue. And that's been one of our biggest positive bits of feedback is it's got like that Cheers feel. You walk in and you say, oh, hey, you know, it's kind of.
Well, I think also you have not control, but you know when you put a student up there, you have an idea of their quality of their playing
Right.
and what they're gonna play.
Right, and
you
how much
kind
I
of
would need to
lose
see.
that control
Right.
when you just kind of have that open mic night where
Right.
you bring everybody up.
And
So I think
One of
you
the
should
things.
have control over.
Yeah, one of the things we do well is we know, you know, over the years I've been really good at it myself, but also taught my staff how to, you know, even take very beginner students and with a collaboration, have it be confidence building for the child, but also really enjoyable with the way that the teacher can carry the duet, where the child walks away crushed it, you know what I mean? And the audience, it's enjoyable for the audience, because in that case, the teacher would be singing, kind of carrying the weight of the performance, but all eyes are on the cute little 6-year-old strumming the ukulele or something, you know? So yeah, that.
Does the music genre or whatever change
Yes,
We come in.
sure, yeah, so for instance, Darren, what, on these 8 nights, my hope is that, there'd be one professional musician carrying the weight of the evening, either on piano or guitar or some other acoustic instrument. And my hope is that with my experience with all my network of other professional musicians in the greater DC area, is that, we have a variety of music where it's not me every single Saturday night playing the classic rock and modern music that I would be playing, and original music I'd be playing. And we get a variety in that you could look at the lineup of 10 different Saturdays and say, oh, that guy's kind of more blues based, pretty cool, or this female performer is more contemporary or whatever it might be. And so there'd be that variety. I'm not looking to have the same carbon copy every single Saturday. Similar to what you guys do with the Saturday morning performances, where there's a lot of variety,
Yes,
with
different
genres, different styles, but again, it's all about the same decibel level, right? And it's nice to see, it's always nice to see that lineup where you say, hey, the fall's coming up, wow, look at all these options I have, and I think we're gonna go that one and that one. So yeah, that's the idea, is to have some diverse programming, but again, always within that. I wouldn't, bring anything too loud on those nights. The idea is that you're not there to, pump your fists in front of the stage and scream and everything. It'd be more of that same atmosphere you'd find at any local brewery. But the difference here is most of these local breweries don't have a live acoustic performer. Some of them, like Lone Oak and Brookville, they do. But again, Denison's, I don't even think they play any music. So I think that's one of the big advantages we have with bringing people out, is that element of live music, enjoyable live music.
Sorry to interrupt. I'm just getting some feedback on Zoom that you're difficult to hear sometimes. Can you guys just speak up a little bit more?
Oh, sure.
Thanks.
Thank you. Council, any other questions? Before we open it up to the public, we're probably not gonna be able to make a decision tonight.
That's okay.
But we would have something for you by the August meeting. Is that enough time for you to plan for September?
When is the August meeting?
Be the second Monday.
Probably.
The 8th of August.
It's not optimal, but I can make it work if that's the parameters.
Okay, well, I think I'd like to hear from the public,
Sure.
and then, we probably have to discuss it, especially I think if we're going to allow, and I'm not saying we are, after the 10 o'clock, we might need to do some sort of a resolution to make sure that that it's clear what our intent is, so that, because we typically follow the county.
Mhm.
And so I would want to make sure that whatever we support, that you're supported, in case there's.
Yes, I mean,
We
That's
would
wonderful.
ultimately be held, because we made that decision, but I think that's part of our hard job, is trying to find that balance.
Right.
But I would think it would be important for us for you to know that we not just support you, but we have actually done it in public.
that's wonderful.
So I
I
think that would be really helpful.
very much appreciate that.
Okay, I'm not saying that's what we're gonna do, but I just think,
Sure.
that we've, come to an agreement on, and to at least try it, to see how it works.
Yeah, and if there's anything I can do to help with that goal, that would be wonderful for us to be able to have that support.
Okay.
And with this whole, and I'll reiterate here, with this whole concept, I've lived in Kensington my whole life. My true aim here is to work really hard to provide this really unique, special community, recurring events, right? And my hope is that I can do more of these. My hope was that I could do 4 large scale in the fall, 4 large scale in the spring, and kind of grow. But I'm seeing this as a really long-term, long-term play, and based on just the minimal negative feedback about some of the noise. Pulling back to 2, it's from our perspective, it's like, well, this isn't really what we want to do, but we're happy to do that. And in response, it would be nice to be open more for everybody. So my hope is that we can just take the fall as the fall and like we always do, respectfully kind of get together and see how it went and if there's ever room for, you know, back up to 4 or so in the future or more, building upon that good faith of a couple seasons or a couple years of everybody kind of buying into this as an institution and really liking it. Our goal is to do more, but for the meantime, we're completely cool doing what's necessary to make this work.
Okay, I can't say other locations that I can think of in the town, but does it have to be at the courtyard? Has there been other options that you've looked at within the town that?
Yeah, it's gotta be the courtyard, because that's where gigs is, and
Okay.
it's just with the infrastructure, the part of why it actually works is that the infrastructure completely exists, you know, for these acoustic nights, even the stage, there's those gray steps that go up with a kind of a nice, I don't know, maybe 15 or 16 square foot on a platform as if it was a stage. The stage is there for an acoustic duo.
Right.
It's already there. So, and the other thing I keep hearing is, you know, when you dress up that parking lot in a courtyard to be a venue, everybody looks around and says, I can't believe that we're in Kensington right now. And this is just, it feels different. I've been in this parking lot and it's just not the same as, you know, it's kind of this magical feel where everyone has this vibe where it's like, wow, this feels like a real venue. And I don't think, besides the Pumpkin Rock and Roll once a year, I don't think there's any other space that would
Well, that's a different event, you know, it's also daytime, it's not a,
right.
you know, a nighttime event. So, I mean, if you were playing late, I think you have the same problem that right now we're trying to solve too, because it sits within a residential
Sure.
neighborhood.
I will
So-
say, when I met with Terry last week at Baby Cat, we collaborated on this great concept where, you know, and then again, the spirit of collaboration. Terry said that at the end of my show on April 30th, he said everyone was looking around at 10:30, said, where do we all go, you know? And
The baby cat.
well, that's the idea, is on certain select nights saying, you know, having it be part of the official promotions. When we're done at Gigs Courtyard, everyone walk on down and walk through the doors inside of Baby Cat and use it to stimulate what they're doing, kind of piggybacking on the success of the people who want to keep going for a little while.
Right,
How nice for everyone to be able to walk 5 minutes and be at the after party or so, or something like that within the walls of Baby Cat, where it's not, you know, not people outside at midnight, if they're more in that establishment. I don't know what the parameters are going to be with their hours, but we both were pretty excited about, you know, how that would be a very cooperative business, you know, kind of like Kensington businesses do, where they help each other out and they say, how can this work for you and how can this work for us?
Right. I do feel like for the most part, the town is fairly quiet after 9 p.m. I think a lot of.
Not my house.
I'm just saying it's because there is no late night. I
Sure.
think when Wine and Company was talking, they wanted to be able to stay open till like 2 in the morning. I think that was the discussion we had, like.
Wow. Yeah,
I don't
I'm not
think
so
we're that,
interested
we're
in
not
that.
that kind of town.
Yeah, no, I'm,
Find that.
yeah, I have nowhere in the future am I look, more like, you know, like Merriweather does, it's 10:15 or so and the concert's done.
Yeah.
10:30 and the concert's done and you move on. So I have no aim to ask you guys in the future to stay later than
Okay,
10:30 at any
yeah.
point, so that's not the direction I'm looking to go.
Okay. All right, well, stay nearby. You might get some questions from some of the
Sure.
residents who may have questions.
Of course, yeah, I'm happy to answer any and all questions that
Okay.
anyone might have.
Is there anybody online that has a question? Anybody in the audience want to question? George, if you come up front. Yeah, you seem to be the only one. Good question. You have a folder, so it's a good question.
I just needed something firm to write on my notes. I didn't have enough time to do it before I got here,
That's
so I had to
Okay, well, go ahead and come up, let's switch places with
Sure,
Sean and
sure.
Just give your name and street.
My name's George Buckwalter, live on Foster Street. I'm the 0.035278.9% pushback. That's not happy with your venue after the rock concerts. And it's mostly about noise, but there's some other issues as well. Time. Don't know if you're aware of the county ordinance, which is quiet time is 9 p.m. on the weekends and 55 decibels to any adjoining residential properties. You've got properties that are 100 feet from your venue. I don't know how. Normal talking is 55 decibels. You know what's going on in this conversation. I was just pegging it, and I think it went up to 60, but it's pretty quiet. You know, I've talked to some of the residents of the apartments that are, you know, affected the most. And I haven't queried everybody in there. I hope I will. As I say, the cutoff is 9 p.m. in the county in residential, 55 decibels. Commercial, you get to 65, but nearest property line says 100 feet. I think, you know, normal conversation is 55. I don't know how you're going to meet that. Also, you know, even during concerts, parking. Saturday is a pretty busy day on Foster Street. We have the farmers market. Now we have classes at the girls who paint. You know, we have people going to restaurants, whatever. You know, so you know, the parking's pretty open on Saturdays. And when we had this discussion when Pete was the mayor before, he said if things changed, then we would address, of course, he's not the mayor, but the parking situation on Foster. You know, it's 4-hour parking. I don't, now you're talking about limiting parking on Armory and Mitchell to 2 hours. We're still at 4 hours. The other, some of the other, you know, the parking is an issue. You know, the cutoff time, noise. The other thing, rain date. I mean, if you're having Saturday and you're going to do the following Sunday, and you're going to go to 10 o'clock or 10:30, you know, all that's school nights.
Yeah, we would just if we had to cancel a Saturday, we would just cancel it.
I mean, even your, you know, your pay-per-view performances.
We would, in those cases, we would, yes.
Can you also come up here, just because that
Sure.
gets into the
Oh,
recording?
sure, of course.
Doesn't amplify, it's there to get into the.
Understood, yeah. George, with the larger scale concerts, we've kind of evolved to this point where we're focusing more on local groups as opposed to national touring groups.
Right.
So pushing it to Sunday, if we ever were to have it rain out on Saturday, the idea would be more of a daytime event on Sunday or a different Saturday. It wouldn't be Sunday nights at all.
And the other concerts you talked about would be just canceled, you wouldn't reschedule those?
Right.
They're
Like if
just
we had
the
the
ones-
10 event season
Okay,
in the
they
fall,
just would be
if
canceled.
it was thunderstorming on one Saturday, we'd say the Sean Geiser concert is canceled.
Okay.
And he's playing again.
Because nobody's bought tickets, so the
That's the idea.
investment is much,
Right.
yeah.
Right, so that's the idea, is that we wouldn't be amassing all these rain out dates. We would stick to the adhered to schedule, and if we had to cancel 1, 2, 3 of them, we would cancel those.
I think the other thing question I have, who from the town's going to monitor what's going on?
Okay.
Okay, And, I mean, that's monitoring the decibel levels of the adjoining properties to see, you know, what the effect that's gonna be on them. Because it is gonna be effect on it, and it's gonna be effect on the, you know, the immediate neighborhood. If you're talking all these, you know, even a few of them are effect, but if you're even increasing, it's even gonna be more so. And I'll leave it from there.
I have a question about decibel. Is that from indoor or outdoor?
It's on your,
I know I saw it, but I didn't know whether, I didn't see it specifically say if you're in your home, do you take it in your house or do you take it outside?
no, you take it out at the beginning of the property line.
Okay,
So, you know, with the apartments behind the venue there, it would be right at the, you know, the closest property line to the venue.
okay,
That would be it.
okay.
55 is pretty quiet.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
No, I understand. Okay, thank you, Jordan.
George, I, since you seem to know more about the noise ordinance, do you have any idea how has this been revised lately? Because it talks about a difference between noise levels in residential areas and non-residential areas.
Absolutely.
And in our town, we used to, up until the last sector plan 10 years ago, we had several apartments above businesses. And for the most part, it was a commercial area and then a residential area around it. Our vision for the future right now is mixed use downtown. So we will have commercial with residential above. And that seems to be an evolving trend that the noise ordinance doesn't address. So I don't know if you've asked anybody.
I don't know. I've worked in the last condo project I worked at was you know, mixed use, and one was condos above Harris Theater. You don't want to eat apples because water can find its way down. And that's all about water when you're talking about mixed use.
But yeah, and I sympathize with the noise and certainly the long-term residents of the area, but just feels like there's a little bit of tension between revitalizing the downtown area and making, I mean, right, when I moved here 25 years ago, this town went dead at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. All the shops closed, there were maybe 1 or 2 restaurants, and it seems like our focus has been liven it up. And I don't know how we do that in sort of
But, you know, I don't think you can do that and, you know, ignore residents that are close by. I mean, most rock concert venues are like, say, Meriwether folks. That's not close to anybody's house that I'm aware of when I've been out there, or Wolf Trap, or, you know, it's.
No, but you see this problem in Silver Spring, for
I-
example, where you have restaurants that have live music
Yeah,
or they have
in front of their,
recorded music. They have outdoor patios.
Well, the
And
Civic
they're
Center
building-
too has a big area that people have bands in and there are apartments all around.
Yeah, but I mean, it's within neighborhoods that now we have apartments that are lively. And so I don't know what the vision of the county is, I don't know what our vision is, but it's certainly something that we can't just take a static in time approach to. I don't, I'm a little.
Well, I think
Well,
that's
you know,
part of the
I'm-
reason why we're not gonna make a decision tonight.
oh, I understand,
Yeah.
But, I mean, even Silver Spring, my understanding is, I don't know that much about that venue up there, but it doesn't go to 10:30 at night, though.
I don't know. I just know that they do have concerts
Yeah.
out there. I just don't.
In front of their civic.
In front of
center.
the Civic Center. they have
Yeah,
a lot of
that's a pretty
concert venues
big
out there.
open courtyard area.
Yeah, but there are apartments right above all
Yeah,
those
I'm not-
commercial areas. I know,
When I was gonna go get my booster, I wasn't looking up too
Yeah.
much.
so,
But you know, as I say, you know, the apartments have been here for 75 years.
mhm.
And, you know, we've got, I'm long-term, I've been here 22. For 23, I've lost track. But, you know, I like music myself, but I don't like it all day long and all night long. You know, basically it is fairly quiet, you know, once you get past 5 o'clock.
Yeah, I mean, to that point, only because they got rained out last week. Strathmore has their outdoor music concert series through the summer, Wednesdays. And the Symphony Park townhomes are right there. And then, you know, and I was looking at another one here, Brookside Gardens does a outdoor concert series, 2 concerts. It's similar.
What's,
I'll wait for the-
This one is 8, the other one
how close is the Strathmore to the townhouses, or do you know?
they're, I mean, they just share a common green space. I mean,
I haven't been, so
I
I
can
don't know.
measure it, but
Yeah.
yeah, they're close. But if other people have questions about it, so.
And have you gotten any sense, because you asked how we're gonna enforce this, I don't know, because we're a small town.
I can't hear you.
I was saying, I'm assuming that you talked to the county. Because, you know,
Initially I did, I talked to the alcohol,
right,
the woman on the alcohol board.
I just don't know how they enforce it, and because, I haven't been to one of your concerts yet, I'm sorry. But, I've heard it last year, 5 blocks north of my house, and it apparently had something to do with either the humidity level or the high pressure or low pressure. I don't know how something like this gets enforced and how the county enforces.
Well,
it.
someone has to complain.
You get a complaint. This is being held on a weekend during off hours when we don't have people who can go out and enforce it.
Right.
And I don't even know that if they could go out, whether they would have the training and ability to enforce. I'm asking at the county level, which has a much more sophisticated government, and, you know, how do they enforce it?
You register with, you call the non-emergency number with the county police and have somebody come out.
And the police come out?
And I have no idea
Okay.
whether they have sound meters or how they deal with it or how they've dealt with it.
I will say that this. I will say the 7 times we've done a large scale concert in this space, we acquired a permit from Montgomery County that allowed us to go till 10:30 from the county, and we have complied with every logistical aspect of the permit that was given to us by the county.
So when you say county, does that mean the county?
The
alcohol
ABS.
The ABS.
You start with the alcohol people, then work up, is my understanding.
It's a permit from ABS, it's not from DEP.
Sure, and on that permit, there's times that they've given us, and they gave us 10:30, and we have adhered to 10:30. And so
So for your 2 different types, I'm sorry.
So we spoke with ABS, trying to figure this out. We reached out to Down House, so we're trying to figure out what they were doing. And what ABS said is because there's alcohol served at the event, they are the enforcement agency as opposed to DPS. So ABS becomes the enforcement agency as soon as there's an alcohol. We reached out to them and asked them if they provide any kind of waiver, specifically for like outdoor concerts, if they give them time restrictions. And they basically said, well, we just approve it as it is. And they reached out to county DPS and said, how would you handle this in this situation? DPS came back and said, because we're in town, they defer to us. So if there was a waiver, they wanted us to handle it. They did not.
Well, and how does DEP then layer in over top of all of that?
So if there was no alcohol involved, they would be the enforcement agency. So if there was an issue, if there was a complaint, call non-emergency police would come out, they would check and see that Sean has a permit, and they'd probably lose. So ABS is deferring to us, DPS is deferring to us. So as far as I understood is if we're gonna give them a waiver to go to 10:30 or 10 o'clock, or beyond 9 p.m. on a weeknight, it's a resolution we need to pass.
Yeah, we need to enforce it.
Yes.
I think we have all the information we need. We may end up holding maybe our August meeting will be by Zoom only.
Okay.
But we can probably discuss this prior to in a work session. So we can have a resolution or say no or whatever for the August meeting, but we'll have an answer for you guys.
Sure.
But we'll try to have, the work session is open to the public. So anybody can attend, but we'll try to figure out, look at your presentation and proposals and come up with solutions that hopefully will help both.
Sure. And George, just to make clear, there's been tremendous good faith from both the town and from us reacting. I'm not trying to, long jam this down anyone's throat. They said that there was, in response to the loudness, we proposed that we pull back from some of those larger events, and in response to some of the exclusivity of having to pay a $30 ticket or something, our response was, well, we'll take the risk and we'll put it on our back and we'll invite George and everyone who lives in the Fawcett Street apartments to come for free and sit at a table in a chair and buy a piece of pizza from Frankly and have a craft beer from the new brewery in town and enjoy some free live music from a professional musician amongst everyone else that they live with. And in my opinion, that not only builds the allure of our town of Kensington in general, this sort of venue typically, when it's attended by so many town residents, it increases everyone's property values and the allure to be in a town where people can walk to things that are so community-based with the arts and food and beverage that are all local and supporting other businesses, supporting children playing music. It's really the essence and DNA of what we're trying to do is pro Kensington in every facet of its design. I'll just say that. And if there's anything, George, that suggestions from the Fawcett Street Apartments within the plan that we already have, I'm completely open to if there's some, maybe one of these nights, I don't know, if the residents are interested in gathering in a way, if there's ways that we can offer some vouchers for people that are affected for discounted or free food or drink to satisfy, there's things that we would be willing to do to, make it a little more, reasonable for people who live in apartments to say, hey, we're somewhat negatively affected by this, but there's also this benefit that we may have where there are certain things that people might enjoy having that close by that we would be more than happy to brainstorm how we could be a friendly neighbor and do our best to be supportive.
Okay, thank you, Sean.
Sure.
Yeah, I just want to add one more thing. There is there's a two-party complaint application with the county for noise, and why it's two-party that kind of sits in my craw, because you should be able to address the government without another person. But that's just one more way of how, if you had Saturday night, it was too loud, Monday morning, I file a complaint and file it with environmental people with the county. That's one way of how it's addressed, other than, if it was during the daytime, that it would be with environmental people, but after hours when they're not working, it's the county police.
Okay.
Or the mayor.
You can call me
That phase.
I could say maybe one more thing.
Sure.
We've had the county police come to these events and they've taken a look at the permit we've had and said, carry on. Also, if there's a need, we've probably had about, I would say, estimated with the 7 events we've thrown, upwards towards 2,000 Kensington residents who have come and had nothing but wonderful things to say about this. If it's helpful for me to put a petition together listing supporters, I would be happy to do the grunt work of putting that together if it helped us achieve the goals, the community goals that we're looking towards achieving. So please let me know if there's some boots on the ground work. It would be very easy for me to reach out to. We have their contact information. Anyone who's bought a ticket, put together a document, say this is what we're trying to do, sign here to support, and if there's a list of addresses that are in full support. If that's helpful in any way for the big picture here, just let me know.
Okay, well, as I said, I've only attended one event. I've been outside the events on the other ones, just kind of walking around, so I understood some of the concerns. And so I finally broke down, bought a ticket, or I guess your last event, and I was impressed with the amount of county high-ups that you had attending the event, so it's pretty impressive. So, but I think we try to find something in the middle to help those.
Sure, great. We'll just keep you posted.
Last question.
Yeah.
One, I appreciate, like I said before, partnering with, Baby Cat when it's open and frankly, have you talked to the other nearby restaurants and other, bringing hundreds of people into Howard Avenue for the businesses that are open at that time of evening, K-Town Bistro, Old Town Market, what are they seeing from the impact of having this foot traffic?
Good question.
And if you haven't, maybe reach out to them as well. And just because I'm one person, I've been to several other councils, but what I also noticed, my singular one thing was Franklin was full. Bistro was full. I didn't get down to Old Town Market, but I did hear that there were some grumblings that they had to make a lot of sandwiches that day. So there has been other positive reverberations to our business.
I think so, and it goes without saying that when you put Nationals Ballpark in the middle of the ghetto, that the businesses around, if people go grab a burger before the ball game, right? I'm sure that people who bought a ticket to one of these concerts said, you know what we'll do? We'll go to Frankly, sit down from 5:30 to 7, and then we'll walk around the corner and walk in, and so I fully agree with that. That when you bring a couple hundred residents to the commercial district of town where the businesses are, that people do business at those places of business. And given the length of these events, I think that we saw a lot of people who went and ate dinner and then came in at 8 o'clock or 7:30 or left early and suddenly grabbed a sandwich on the way out or pizza on the way out. Again, my goal is to have Frankly be the exclusive food partner, but if there's other ways that I can support other Kensington businesses, maybe there's even ways that non-food or beverage businesses, maybe there's, down in the Outer Banks, there was a couple of these breweries that had outdoor scenes and there was crafts and tables and merchants and things like that. I'd be more than happy, if especially on these more mellow nights, where it's not standing room only ticketed rock concert. I'm more than happy if there's ways that we can include benefits to more collaboration with more neighboring Kensington-based businesses. I'm all for it,
Yeah, and I'm not sure that they necessarily have to be involved with the actual concert. I've talked to many of the businesses, and actually Connor and I need to set a date for getting together with them soon, but I have gotten some really good positive feedback from the businesses on Howard Avenue that the foot traffic is up. And I think a lot of it is bringing people who never would get out of their car to the Old Town Kensington and walking around.
Right.
And I think that has been beneficial thanks to, events like yours. We haven't had the book festival in a couple of years, so people haven't had that opportunity to be out on the sidewalk, something else to bring them to, but I've got some real positive feedback from people that the foot traffic is up on Howard Avenue.
That's great.
A lot of it is people that, live in Parkwood or, Byford or Kensington Estates that, never get out of their car. They go to the Safeway and then they leave.
Right.
And now they park their car, they're walking, and they're actually saying, wow, there's a lot of cool places here.
Right, and I think you see that also with the farmers market, right? People say, if you have a community-based inclusive event, where there's, you don't have to pay $30 or $50 to get into, you say, hey, let's make a morning of it. Let's go to the farmer's market, let's buy a smoothie, let's get some flowers, and let's visit some shops, and let's get lunch at the deli club, and then we've been here for 3 or 4 hours, and that's why I think Kensington is special, is because it's growing and it's inclusive, and when people put their heart and soul into their events and their businesses, it ripples throughout the community. So that's what we're aiming to do here.
Well, the most well-attended KHS concert series is when Kensington Parkwood Elementary School's choir comes to sing. Seriously,
Sure.
because every parent comes
Sure.
and they are out there. Yeah, they're out there with their kids. That is something that you will see, that people will come with their kids and they'll bring grandmother, granddad, and, their neighbors.
Right. Yeah, my goal here is not to blow away the community every Saturday night for all time. It's to have a couple really big special nights where we are loud, but it's a celebration. And then the evolution with this business model is that for the rest of the time, it's contained in the courtyard, really, with an acoustic guitar player and a singer, and it's not bothersome to other people, and it's bringing everybody together.
All right, well, we're gonna play
Again,
some. Take care.
lastly, just to work with Kensington Can.
Yeah,
And just make them aware of whatever gets decided, what the schedule is, and let them, there may be some places that realize that that's foot traffic they may want to capture.
Right.
And let them make their own decision, but basically, and we're happy to help as well, Tracy, myself, Carrie Ann, once, whatever's decided, to get the information into all of the surrounding businesses, so they're just made aware.
Great. And one final thing, through just my entrepreneurial career, I've made it a point to be altruistic as well. So if within the town, if I was able to have 10 events, it allows me to, once or twice a season, collaborate with an organization that maybe town council might recommend that's serving underprivileged members of our community. Maybe there's a percentage of proceeds that goes to them, and all of those community members come, and we celebrate those individuals. So if there's a season of 10 events, that gives me a lot of flexibility to say, and on this one special night, we're celebrating this charity that's based in Kensington. And
Yeah, I think we've talked about that, and maybe getting involved with Jubilee. And
Jubilee
Steve
would be great.
Here
there's a bunch of them,
right.
right? A lot of my work in event production, for about 7 years, I've supported Tribute 21,
Right.
which is for supports children with Down syndrome.
Right, which is what Jubilee, where they
Right.
house them.
Right.
So, yeah.
And then another one is PCR, Potomac Community Resources. We've been producing their gala at the Marriott in Rockville for about 5 or 6 years. That's for disabled adults, and there's all sorts of programming. So we're very in touch with those communities, and especially me from a personal level with my daughter being disabled. I really, it's at the heart and soul of what I would like to do as a human being and a community member is support these institutions, and if given the chance to do more respectfully, not huge loud events, it offers the opportunity to bring in those organizations and those community members that might not be celebrated as much as those of us who are privileged enough to not suffer from disabilities or those sorts of things.
Sure.
So anyway, that's just wanted to make that clear that that's a goal of mine. It always has been, and this platform would allow me to flex that muscle a little bit and support those people in those organizations and bring some attention to what they're doing. Not only just maybe some fundraising, but give those individuals that fun experience that night of this is our event, but most importantly, the platform that would give to raise awareness within our community, so other people who might not know about Jubilee or other things, it could be on their radar, and they probably meet some people who are, if they came that night, they probably noticed that there are a lot of members of Jubilee that would be there that night,
Right.
and would give them that much more incentive to celebrate their existence in our town and maybe be altruistic themselves, hopefully in the future supporting the existence of those organizations that already are here in Kensington.
Okay.
Good, thank you very much.
Thank you, Emma. Thanks so
Yeah,
much.
it was a good discussion, thank you. So we're gonna need to, schedule a work session, so we can talk this through at some point before the August 8th meeting. So. Come up with a date now. This time, we're gonna create a resolution for the August 8th meeting. So something the end of July, I think you all are, most people are going away.
Yeah, next week, so week of the 5th.
If we're doing it by Zoom, then. 25th good for everyone? During the day or anything? It would probably be. Would you prefer day or you know, I'm going to see the Black Keys that night, so. Live music. Apropos of our discussion at Merriweather, so. Oh, okay. The 26th. Yeah. Do you say the 26th? Yeah. Matt, does that work?
It works.
Do a work session on the 26th,
7.
7:00. And we'll do that by Zoom. And that is open to the public. So we'll send out an agenda so you can observe during work sessions.
Great.
We might have a question if you're on, but otherwise we'll just be talking amongst ourselves.
Sure, however I can be helpful.
Okay, and then we will of course we'll have a meeting in August. People will still be able to comment before we have final.
Great. Thank you all for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for your feedback.
Yep,
Appreciate
they
it.
do. They're earning it tonight.
Can I make a request to
Sure.
move a resolution up? We have a resident here.
Oh, sure, I'm sorry.
Our
Which
resident-
one?
resolution-
Oh, right, for the Kensington Parkway.
Resolution number
I'm so
R
sorry.
18 2022.
And you got your kids with you, and I saw they're like dying
No,
over there,
they're
they're just
good, you're
like.
good.
Sorry, that's a
Yeah.
total.
That year is so.
They're being
so
great,
fast.
yeah, I
Yeah.
did bring them as props, we had childcare.
I know that the apartment's actually pretty comfy, they need to stretch out. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, let's go ahead and
So
bring that up.
we're gonna move up one resolution, resolution number R 18 2022. A resolution of the mayor and town council authorizing the town manager to establish no parking anytime signs along the east side of the 10,000 block of Kensington Parkway, also known as the access road from Frederick Avenue to 45 feet northward of Frederick Avenue. This came at the request of a number of residents following an inquiry from Montgomery County Public Schools bus driver. They were having difficulty making the turn from Frederick Avenue onto the access road. Our traffic engineer reviewed the site and made the recommendation that we place a no parking anytime sign 45 feet from the intersection.
And the reason why we're doing this, other than just putting up the signs, because it's typically on the side with the stop sign and not on the other side, is that correct?
Correct. And if we were within 10 feet of the intersection, the traffic engineers said, we would just generally put it up. But we need a little more room there. He recommended that we go through the overall traffic. So there's no issues on staff side. We recommend.
And I think, and did you saw the email, you were on that, correct? Everybody saw the email from the residents. Is there any,
I was just gonna say, I also asked
Uh-huh.
I asked I know the person who's on the corner there,
Mhm.
and just to see if they had any opinions about it, said that generally supported a little bit of an inconvenience, but not a big deal.
just a few feet?
Yeah, so they wouldn't go.
Car lane?
It's basically two
car
spaces.
lanes.
Yeah. We did leave notices to the two adjacent property owners that would be affected the most. We have not received any feedback as of 4 o'clock.
Did you want to say anything or?
Should I
Yeah,
go up
you
there?
can.
All right, thank you. No, so my name is Beth Roberts and I am on Kent Street and wanted to thank the town for entertaining this proposal, which we sent on June 9th, a series of 8 residents signed on to petition the town to have the, basically, as you said, the east side of the Kensington Parkway, have it as a no parking. And it's because we originally had the bus stop at Kent and Kensington Parkway proper. And there was a child who was almost struck by the bus. And so we petitioned to have it moved to the service road. And that has been fabulous in terms of overall safety. The parents are happy. We've been working with the neighbors there to make sure that, you know, the kids stay off the lawns and that we're kind of being good stewards of that road. The problem is that when the bus can't make the turn, then we end up having to go to the very unsafe area of Kent and Kensington Parkway. And so multiple times, at least 3, I have been asked by the bus driver to go back and put a note that just asked during, you know, drop off and pick up, if they could, the car lengths could not, you know, not park there so that the bus driver could make the turn. So that's been great. And I also reached out to the homes that are kind of orthogonal to that intersection so that you could, to see what they thought. And the homeowner in that bungalow there said that she didn't see a problem because, you know, a lot of times they see it tends to be contractors that park in there, or sometimes people who are using the park across the way. So anyways, that was just the genesis and some of the background as to why we are petitioning this. This is hugely for child safety concerns. You know, if there are remediations or narrowing the time, you know, for us, it really is the school year for which we see that this is the biggest concern. And having 2 lengths of cars is also, it's kind of very desirable as well. So anyways, that's the background. Thank you very much for entertaining this request.
Oh, absolutely. I think, you know, you would say, yeah, oh yeah, then, you know, during the school year only, but people will get into the habits of parking there and then forget that it's now the school year, or forget that it's, you know, not a holiday. So I think getting people into you just don't park there anytime.
Yeah, which is fine for us too. We of course want to, you know, be
Right.
Accommodating to the town, and we know that parking can come at a premium, but again, in terms of hierarchy, we really, having worked with Bethesda Depot and Montgomery County to move that bus stop was tantamount to so many safety issues. I can't tell you what it's like to have a child run out in the middle of the street with almost being hit by a bus. And so some of the other parents, that would just happen to another parent, and so this was very consequential.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Anybody online have any questions regarding this resolution? Anybody else? Anybody else? Any other questions? Make a motion.
I'll move to approve resolution number R-18-2022.
Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. All right. Thank you guys for staying.
Yeah, I know, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
For doing that.
You're not gonna stay here?
We're not gonna say, I mean, if you wanna read some bedtime stories.
You can go home and turn it online and talk about state highway.
Yes.
Girl Scout watch, I feel like there should be a
There
patch.
is actually, I'm gonna come talk to you a little bit later because
Yeah.
we're earning our democracy in
Good.
action.
I think somebody just
badge.
did.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so back up, we're just on number 3.
Yep.
Okay.
You thought the kids'
I-
schoolyard was long.
I
Let's talk about
know,
it
dear,
again.
well, we're talking about all the things they're not gonna do. Do you wanna talk about a date?
I actually deferred to Matt. He was gonna give a quick update. I'm
Okay.
gonna fill in the blanks, so
That's
that's okay.
talk about the 2 things they're actually.
Oh, that's really good.
I can tell you all about
That
the other things we talked about very quickly.
they're going to set.
Yeah.
So Councilmember Engel, Mayor Furman, and I met with our district engineer.
Darren was on.
Oh, Darren, Councilmember Barton was there as well. In a couple weeks ago in June. And they gave us some updates on some prior inquiries that we had in December. I'll touch on the 2 that we know that are gonna proceed. One is to install a no U-turn along the eastbound left turn lane at Maryland 185 Connecticut Avenue to Howard Avenue, prevent queue jumping from Maryland 185 Plattersville Road. We had advised them that there have been some issues where vehicles are attempting to jump the queue at the intersection with Connecticut and Flyers coming down to Howard, making a U-turn. So that has been studied. It's been completed and sent over to OOTS, which will approve and install the sign, hopefully soon. The other matter was the town receives many complaints, not only from the church and residents and but drivers as well about the pedestrian crossing signal on Connecticut Avenue, Washington Street. We addressed that with them over time, but not during our formal meeting back in December. But they did provide an update and stated that the study has been completed. It has been sent over to OOTS, which is the Office of Traffic Safety within the division, OOTS, and they are recommending a full traffic signal. We anticipate this will be completed. They did not provide any time frame.
Is the full traffic signal, is it automatic? I mean, if you have to push a button, or is it just on a regular?
No,
Traffic.
I know, but it's, so it's gonna, I know, but I mean, it's not activated by push of a button.
No, it will be fully
It will full
operational.
signal.
It will be
Yeah.
fully operational, which will help one of the issues we have with Washington Street heading west towards Connecticut, where there was no restrictions on trying to turn south on Connecticut. But it was quite difficult.
I just want to be clear for the public that it
Well,
will be a full signal.
There was no time frame, as we've learned, their schedules don't always match up.
Well, then they have to get funding.
But these are two projects that they did state have been reviewed or in the last stages of. And I know Connor's about to ask about the rapid collection.
We'll get there.
Yeah,
Uh,
and I believe the crossing is still only going to be on the north side.
We asked, actually, I asked them because we had, I think someone from our pedestrian bicycling activity working group submitted comments either through the working group or through the MD 185 needs analysis or needs assessment that SHA did about adding a crosswalk on the south side there. And they said they would look at it. They hadn't thought about it, but
Yeah,
It's
I
a
didn't
natural
get that
connection.
impression. I got more, well, they might
Study.
study it.
well, yeah,
But they
that's what.
didn't seem optimistic that they would.
Yeah, but
I know, I'm
think
just
these things-
saying.
They said they will circle back to it, is what they said.
Yeah,
So anyway, I made the point and we'll keep bringing it up because it's a natural connection there with where people are walking.
I'm not objecting to it. I'm just,
Along Washington Street.
Yeah.
Okay,
because
Should
the
I-
sidewalk ends on the other side. When you get to the other
Yeah,
side, the
on the-
sidewalk
on
ends,
the
and then
north
you gotta
side.
cross back over to the.
yeah, it's a little quirky. Okay,
I mean, this is an internal thing now. If that becomes a full traffic signal, the no through traffic restrictions on West Howard, because now you have a safe way, the pitch
Showing the
on the
picture.
west side of Connecticut. I'm Washington, west of Howard. But if you now have a full traffic, safe intersection to cross, you're gonna have a green to cross Connecticut Avenue. But you can't
You can't go
enter that,
straight
you can't
during,
enter, yeah,
well, I guess if you're going,
4 to 7 PM Monday through Friday.
well, if you're going somewhere on Pitchfork, it's
Right.
only if you're
Right.
leaving that neighborhood to go to Summit.
yeah, no, it says, I
You would
mean,
have to go to Summit Avenue for
Yeah.
the violation.
Yeah.
and you might not have a left turn signal light, you might just have a green light where there's a turning lane.
Well, you could go straight or turn left or
Yeah.
right.
Pay us for the-
You
just
ask you,
We'll-
how will that
we'll
affect your
study it
bill?
when it comes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, so should I just give very quick updates on these others?
I think the rapid flashing beacons the most important one.
The rapid flashing beacon at Lee, Tracy expressed frustration and they heard it and Natasha said she'll push. So hopefully we'll hear sometime this year.
It's not my first time I've expressed frustration.
I would be happy to also express my frustration.
She got the message, I think, hopefully, but again, the whole, one big message from this was that we agreed with them to do quarterly meetings. Because we've been doing them kind of when Tracy, Matt, Darren and I have requested it because the list just keeps growing, as you'll see.
Yeah.
So they said, this is good, let's have quarterly meetings, so we'll continue to bring it up. We have an ongoing list. I'm just gonna flag them like I did at the last meeting in December. Some of the issues that we are following with them is Darren's great suggestion, but they still can't seem to get how to operationalize it, is to allow a solar powered speed sign to be placed on Metropolitan.
That was really hard to get them to
They have-
visualize.
Yeah, so I think Darren was gonna follow up and set, or Matt was gonna
So
follow up and
I
set.
followed
some
up with
specs.
Joseph, our assistant district for traffic. I sent him a link to the piece I want to buy.
Yeah.
'Cause we can't use ours because it's just labor intensive.
It's battery, not so.
We have the same ones, so they're gonna
Look at it.
study it.
Yeah, so they're following up on that, and that's just to kind of give a heads up, it's not even an intention to have it be enforcement, it's just for behavior change.
Yeah, they insisted on like a clunky trailer that we could get on loan.
They thought, and even after we explained it to them, they thought it was, we were looking for enforcement. It wasn't an enforcement.
No, it's just
We're looking for an
information.
identifier.
like we have on Howard.
Yeah.
So the other big agenda, one of the other big agenda items was the confluence of Connecticut Avenue, Metropolitan, Flyers Mill, Concord Street, where the crossing of Kensington is going. We discussed with them that planning had concerns and wanted to talk with them about getting that intersection done right, both in the immediate term, but then also in the long term to look at how to reconfigure it. So, you know, there's some discussions ongoing with that. We just flagged to them that they were supposed to be talking with the developer. And hopefully they'll be able to address it in the short term, learn from it in the long term. We don't know if we'll fix it, but they agreed that the town will get that intersection. And this included some, one of my points I kept hitting on was that we had this TLC grant that studied the Connecticut Avenue corridor for connectivity and safety and improving pedestrianism and bicycling, which I'll give an update momentarily on. But there are specific recommendations at that intersection, such as adding a crosswalk on the south side of Connecticut, south side of Flyers Mill across Connecticut. And they had not yet started to think about looking at that with any changes that they were looking at with this intersection. So it's really about getting them to like think about things that are getting recommended, because they're gonna have to look at them anyway, just merge them with the studies and analysis that they're already doing.
Do they have to look at these recommendations? Is that part of the grant where they are?
It's not a county grant. I'm sorry, it's not a state grant. They're not required to.
Okay.
But one thing that we think teed up well was that we have this bicycling pedestrian priority area designation plan that will kick off, again, I'll give a quick update. But main message that kicks off next month.
Right.
And this is the state, so they're the big component of the plan, and they'll gather all of the input from the different parties and the
Okay,
stakeholders. And
we
this,
should put the pressure on them too.
yeah, and these, and our conversations with SHA to date, I'll make sure these points are raised when we have a kickoff meeting with whoever the consultant is that's thrown into to help with the plan. And that the TLC grant recommendations are harmonized with it. So there's a couple of things that need to get connected, but they continue to see oftentimes things in a one-off.
Yeah,
Process.
they throw it in the drawer and they don't look at it.
Yeah, so that message just kept on being raised. And so there were a couple of issues around that whole confluence of road network. Then, just want to go quickly through this.
When you talked about that one specific intersection, like by Flyers Mill, I mean, did you make mention that the recommendation from the planning is to look at it right in, right out, only from the 7-Eleven parking lot, which won't work with?
They weren't really,
They weren't concerned about it.
no,
but
well,
we
they
said-
also seem to be confused that they don't recall planning asking them, although they were sent a letter that we were CC'd on.
Okay.
They have the letter from Eric to addressed to Erica Rigby. I sent it to Joseph. And they have the plans for that was approved
Okay,
from Montgomery Planning.
But are they also aware of our local traffic restrictions that we made from 4 to 7? You can go back east on Metropolitan, but there is not another way to come back to Flyers Mill from 4 to 7. I mean, you'd have to go all the way up through home.
You do a U-turn.
It's turned into the dog park.
Yeah, no, I think so. I think that this is all part of their.
Yeah.
They have to look at it, yeah.
Yeah, they had the plan that we had forwarded, that the working group had provided, but they did not have the letter, I think, from Casey Anderson. They were not aware of that. Okay.
Yeah, so.
Okay.
So that's one of the other things we discussed again was, the Maryland 193 eastbound lane reduction between, Connecticut Avenue and St. Paul Street. This is something that they have, I think, been considering, and we have been softly supporting it. This is the road diet kind of lane reduction, primarily heading east or geographically north, but it's east on University towards the mall. They're milling the paving the road now, and they're gonna basically improve, they're gonna reduce the lanes on both sides, the lane widths by a foot or two to allow for a striped buffer on both sides to kind of buffer the sidewalk there. They may, if I understood correctly, may add bike lane if they have enough buffer, but they're not 100% sure yet. But that's all to say that for the long-term plan to actually take out a lane, they're keeping that option on the table, and they want to follow through, that they were very actively wanting to do it. Our point, or I made the point that, great, you want to do that, let's consider it a pilot, because they wanted to do it, just build it if it happens. I said, we need to get feedback from the residents and the community before we consider it like a done deal. We should pilot it. And then they're also considering, Tracy, I think you made the point about on the west side or south, heading south towards Kensington, you can still do that between Mead Mall and probably
You need to stop at Lexington,
Lexington.
and that's where the traffic's, I have no idea where all these cars come from, probably from the shopping center. But all of a sudden, there's like no cars, and then you get up to Lexington and it's just dead.
So the point is that I think they agreed to, I made a note that just to make sure when this is coming out, to make sure that they're putting it as a pilot.
Okay. Yeah, I think it was Darren who really pushed on keeping that southbound University, area between Lexington and the light.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the split, but it,
Sorry to give you credit.
it's okay.
Yeah.
You might one day.
All right, so we also talked about crossing Dietrich Avenue along Knowles on the north side, and they actually did, I think they did agree that this is a longer term issue because it's gonna involve some storm water management, a couple of different cross SHA collaboration.
Moving a pole.
Yeah, to
moving
get
a
a
storm
crosswalk,
drain.
and to get a proper crosswalk there, because right now, as everyone who has been at Wine & Co., when they go to cross Dietrich there towards Stroessneider's, and I've seen them do this, to walk across that street right there, it's basically an ADA ramp into the middle of Knowles.
Yeah.
So it's extremely dangerous, there's no way across safety. So they're gonna look at that.
You know, short term, because that small little bump out could literally cost a couple $1 million.
So what they're looking at is maybe a bump out in the longer term to bump that, the north side of that intersection where the sidewalk terminates right now, to maybe a wider.
Right, that's what makes it expensive, because now you have to move a pole and you've got to move a storm drain to get that bump out. But I still think if you were to bring the sidewalk around, maybe bring the crosswalk down to the corner of the parking lot across to try to.
You could do that, and then they can still maintain that space where they might need for the trucks to turn on. to
Right,
Stroessneider.
yeah, because that's another problem is if you do the bump out, does that mean 18-wheelers now can't make that turn to go, and service, Stroessneider's and everything else? I mean, the last thing you wanted to do is be unloading on Knowles Avenue, which, we've seen. So, anyway, but again, it's gotta be studied and then funded.
Yep, so that's another thing that we put on the table, and they're following up with. The other thing is, I think this is the last one, is the speed reductions in and along Connecticut. leading up to the town and then through the town. And my notes saying that there was not really a good resolution here, that it just didn't make, we asked them, what is the process for incorporating the Connecticut Avenue needs assessment recommendations for any stretch? And they said basically that it's a vision and that they would try to make it happen. So I get the sense, and I hope this is not speaking for everybody, but hopefully you felt like this too, that if we keep pushing them enough, that it's a recommendation that we'll get some.
I don't get why they're resistant. I just don't understand. I mean, you've got a density, you've got enough density, you've got a lot of pedestrian traffic, and you've got a lot of car traffic. And why it doesn't need to be slowed down, I
Tell them we'll buy this.
I think,
right?
I think once we start implementing the other recommendations of the TLC grant, like lane narrowing, getting a striped buffer, in the short term, that's naturally gonna require reductions because their cars are closer to one another. But again, this is continue to be the squeaky wheel, unintended. I think that's the last one. if I remember correctly.
So now we ask for all the ones that are talking about.
Yeah, which ones did we talk about?
The main one, only because you started with the no U-turn.
Oh, one more, sorry, there's one more.
But the problem that's causing the U-turn is that the left turn lane on southbound Connecticut at Flyers Mill.
This is part of the whole thing here.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is one of the things they agreed that it's something they want to fix.
They agreed to it in 2012 too.
But see, this is the problem, because, you know, Pete started them on wanting to dig out those medians and put in on plantings, which now is nothing but weeds because it's this wide, and the crew is terrified of trying to be in that space, trying to weed, you know, that area. So, you know, it looks horrible. But we brought up the fact, no, we need to extend that and put, you know, so cars can, you know, more cars can stack to make that left turn off on Connecticut off Flyers Mill. So what do? They've already got it into their system. So what did we get when they came out? We got the gardens in the middle of the median. I mean, it's just like,
Yeah, they
does
did.
it take so bloody long to get anything?
So another important point that we made in the context of this general area was that we discussed Summit Avenue extended, the ending of it, the termination point of it, and that this is going to create a complicated, a mess for pedestrians and bicyclists in general. And that then led to a conversation around needing and agreeing to a process where we all come together to figure out this whole split in the context of the Summit Avenue extended and these other issues that is really around having some sort of circular movement in that area. And they agreed. They said,
Right.
yeah, this is definitely something. Glad we have a couple years to figure it out. So this is one thing that that we would definitely follow up with them on, creating it maybe in the context of the BIPA plan, PPA plan. But this is definitely an area that, to your point, Connor, this is included in that whole conversation.
Well, I think leading off of, I'm disappointed with SHA. Given, but because SHA and MCDOT, like that one short-term improvement was identified 6 years ago as something to be done immediately in the short term while they were going through the planning phases for Summit Avenue Extend. And that regardless of what the outcome of Summit Avenue is, that was a fix that needed to be made. And they all agreed to it. And here we are with them saying, it's such a problem, we're gonna put in a no U-turn sign, but we're gonna keep looking at this. Like, we know it's a problem. You know,
Yeah, and I think we'll continue to find ourselves in this situation where we're either playing catch up or we're behind the curve, whatever the analogy is, until we look at this as a.
I just wish that if they're gonna make you wait for 6 years, they should come back and say, we're ready to go with this project. Is this, you still want it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Has the problem changed,
that would be helpful.
you know?
Yeah.
So, Alright,
Did I miss anything?
I don't think so.
So did you set a date for the next quarterly meeting?
Good question, did we?
No, we did not.
No, because everybody will change, all the names will
No, no, no,
change
no.
in 4 months, so
Yeah,
I'll be
no,
different.
but the thing is, the list has grown, and I think, the more on there, the more, I feel the more committed, yeah.
No, I think so too. I mean, the problem though is they have a lot of asks and there's only so much money to go around. I mean, and it's state highway. And the bucket's only so full. So
But we'll continue to advocate.
I absolutely. So, okay, does anybody in the audience have any questions regarding the state highway report? Not seeing any hands. Council updates, if you need a break or you wanna?
I'll just be very quick, I already alluded to two updates, the grant, final report with three designs for up to the 10% level for some of the improvements is being finalized this week. It's gone through the steering group review process and we've all taken a look at it. And I'll be excited to share it a week or so with everybody. And I'll probably do a journal update on
Okay.
whatever else I need to update on the journal.
Good.
And then the planning process will kick off late July or August. That'll last about a year.
Okay. Is that a good time to do a kickoff?
It's just with the consultant.
Oh, okay.
And me as focal point. I guess I should ask, is it okay if I'm the focal point for SHA for the process?
It's okay, please. I don't know. Darren, did you?
I could also say
I don't know much
MTC chair, MTC chair and co-chair. Could be there. Are you sure not? All right,
Okay,
that's my update. That's my update. Thanks.
yep, Connor,
Now that there are the new electrical vehicle charging stations that have been installed, not operational yet, but set here in Town Hall. And Mark, can we now take a look at Mark and figure out a place for the compost crew?
Yeah.
With the parameters that they have, perfect.
We have the dimensions, we have the bins, and
Yep.
we use those previously, so.
So whatever works best for our operation, again, walk through, talk to several of the vendors. Nate from Vera, primarily just like, he love to make use of it as well. And get stuff out of the garbages that are around. And so,
Where are you thinking of setting that over by the?
so in the Mark station, there's part of the lot that we have some control of, so to the left or to the west.
of
Kind of
the,
To the west
Of
of
the
this,
south parking lot.
and to the west of this charging station.
Yes.
They are going.
So,
is it gonna be far enough back? I'm just thinking, because I think the charging stations has kind of changed the farmer's market where one of the vendors is, because, they usually set up right at
The
that
bread, I think it's
edge.
the bread.
Yeah,
yeah.
Harvest Bread. So she's moved over to the other side, which I think works unless the pickle people are there. So I mean, that'll get worked out. But I'm just thinking in terms of like for Vera's Bakery, where they do the smoothies, the line can get.
Yeah, we should have to think
Pretty-
about that and.
I just
Yeah.
want to make sure that we've
Yeah.
decided a spot that
Well,
won't interfere too much.
and I know at different times, we will park his truck up in that area or in the flower, so
Yeah,
you and Shirley can help that's the thing, we just want to pick best place for both daytime, but also to
I think
support
it
the
would be
farmers market.
helpful to get Shirley just
Yeah.
to kind of bless the location.
But they have the town crew has the specs to basically build it.
We have the bins, the size of the bins, and that, so.
They'll be in a box for Berman.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Do we need to schedule another call? Just
I think once we know the site, then
Okay.
talk to them. I let them know that.
Do we need a county permit?
Oh, I had to go.
Doesn't mean we can't start before it's approved.
Take 6 months to get it, but.
No. I'm sure.
Okay. I'll go ahead and remind everybody again, the journal will need your stuff the week of July 25th. So that's a Monday, but we can as long as she gets it that week. Cause she needs a week to put it all together, so it'll probably be a fairly large journal, so we'll be back. So give me what you got. Also, we do need we need to plan that weekday, that probably Tuesday through Thursday, in the morning to have coffee with the businesses on Howard Avenue.
Yep.
Anyone on the council is invited to come, once we have the date, if you're available. Since it's a public meeting, we can all be there, so we can just put it on the calendar that we'll be holding a business meeting for the businesses. So, we don't have a
I'm
date.
working on that.
We'll work on a date and let you know, and we'll probably do it around 9. I know that might, cause they open between, I think, 11,
Yeah.
sometimes they don't, so 9 o'clock is kind of the time. So, okay, so we'll get that date out, and if you're available, please join us. Okay, that's all I got. Darren?
You wanna talk about the Summit Avenue meeting planning?
Yeah, I mean,
I'll
just
do
bring
a
that
quick
up,
summary.
yeah.
We got in touch with the planning regarding Summit Avenue, not necessarily what the plan looks like or designing it, but for their expertise in envisioning what that road could do to the surrounding areas, Kensington and Kensington, or just overall revitalization. So there, I don't remember when they said they were gonna be back.
I think it was
gave them
September.
like 3 months.
Yeah, I think they were gonna do it in September, but kind of a streetscape.
Yes.
So people, I think it's just a flat little thing with a lot of overlays, just doesn't really tell the story.
Right.
So they're gonna give us some examples of how this.
And then Tracy and I went to the MML conference in Ocean City. There's nothing pressing to brief on that. But I will say, the other thing that I want everybody to give a little thought to is that the county has proposed a ban on gas powered. And the public hearing for that is September 20th. And I just think it's something that we may want to weigh in with a bunch of questions. Should it apply within municipalities? That has the potential to override bans that Church's Village already enacted. Should we ask that be exempted? Should we ask that municipal governments be exempt? I know that we just bought a really nice leaf blower and for it to be banned and have no opportunity to sort of run out the investment is something that we ought to consider doing further. Should the ban exempt 4-stroke engines? If you look at the emissions, 2-stroke lawnmower engine versus 4-stroke is dramatically different. Same thing is true. What's the basis for banning a 4-stroke leaf blower, which is there? And then the other thing is just to sort of look at it. What are we doing with this? What is the county doing with this ban? This is anecdotal, but Washington DC government banned leaf blowers, and in January, I think there's still leaks, not surprisingly. I've gotten down there and the crew, largely minorities, had just gotten rid of the leaf blowers and there was a breaks. And so for the benefit of people sitting in their apartment buildings on Zoom calls, we're making the landscaping crews work a lot harder. And I guess I just wonder if in our day of, heightened awareness of that kind of issue, is that something the county should do? Or is it something we should do? So we don't have to decide tonight. It's a new issue, but I would at least like us to think about it for the August meeting and consider whether we're going to have anything to say to the county.
Don't like the pesticide, don't we have to adopt those, Matt?
It depends on if we have adopted that chapter in the county code, so, we'll have to check and see where it's listed within the county code to see if it would apply to us.
Okay. Because I know, like the town of Chevy Chase, they are, as you said, they've adopted one, but they allow the blowers during, unless they're battery operated, they allow any gas blower during leaf season. So they are allowed during leaf season. But otherwise there's a a noise restriction on them, but they take no responsibility for enforcing. So, I mean, that's part of the argument a lot of times that people have, we adopt these things, but we don't enforce it. So,
Yeah,
their enforcement is we'll call the police.
So
Okay.
their enforcement for the pesticide ban was more about using it
It was
as
an
educational
education.
opportunity,
Right.
which I imagine would be the case for this.
By the time they got there, the landscaper would be gone. Unless they're, letting me know that my landscaper should not be using a blower.
Right.
But then I'm like, well, I don't wanna pay for, 5 guys to rake my acre of land. My acre of land, cause it's more expensive. So instead of being out there for an hour, 5 guys are out there for 5 hours, cause it's so big, I'm just saying, it boils down to, we're making the guy who's making, a smaller amount an hour work harder, probably, so. I don't know, it's just a lot of questions there.
And in some ways, the Montgomery County ban, it doesn't substitute for the noise ordinance. What it's actually intended to do is to make it easier to enforce.
Right.
Not to actually, to enforce. By allowing you to take a picture of the person using this resolution is great enough, and then send that in, and that can form the basis for enforcement. So I think it's a different approach from what they said they're taking as
Okay.
far as the pesticide
Oh,
ban.
wow. I didn't
This
know
is
that.
really just.
So you take a picture of the landscaping truck
Yep.
and the guy with the blower on his back and then
Yep.
snitching. And isn't a lawnmower 4-stroke?
Lawnmowers can be 2-stroke, 4-stroke, pressure washers.
So we're banning lawnmowers too, not
No,
just.
Those bills
it's
are
a leaf
specific.
blower.
Okay.
It's a leaf blower and leaf back.
But if it's an environmental issue, we should be banning lawnmowers.
That's next.
But I'm just saying.
So
Might-
California
maybe
does that.
Yeah.
California is banning 2-stroke engines. But it's, all of this gas-fired lawn equipment. 2-stroke, 4-stroke, electric. This one just irritates me, the sound of the leaf blower.
Sure.
I do think I've listened to a full weekend of somebody.
With a power
washing
washer.
their deck. Anyway, think about it.
Okay.
Think about it.
Can you keep us up to date, or if you wanna,
Well, I
do
think
a
we should,
letter,
I think we should think about it for the next meeting and maybe I'll circulate the kind of law.
do you want to add that to our work session, just as far as maybe proposing a letter that we could write?
That's okay.
I mean, I think
I mean,
if you
that-
wanna have something ready to
July.
go in August,
I mean, we would have, it's September 20th, so we'd actually have a September meeting available to us.
I don't mind putting it on the agenda just to talk briefly, maybe if you've got more information, so we're not taking up too
Or
much
if you know
time.
where in the code it relates to.
Yeah,
Yeah,
to
Matt,
our
Matt,
August issue, our August meeting.
Could you help out with that, whether it automatically would apply within Kensington?
Yeah, I would just need to see where they're citing it. I'll get to that.
And then if we can make sure that on the agenda in August, we could get community members.
So it'd be helpful to get some feedback then.
Yeah.
And then we could have something to go in September.
So I'm doing my desk research. I'm just, to your point, trying to figure out what is this bill trying to address? Because the quietest battery powered leaf blower is 65 decibels.
I don't think it's the noise as much as the gas.
It's the environmental issue.
It's the emissions.
And that's where to me, the county law is good. If you're going to address it as climate change, or you're going to address it as emissions, then there's no reason for going after just the leaf blower. You should be going after lawnmowers, weed whackers, pressure washers, all that stuff. If it's noise, we have a noise ordinance.
It is noise, so I stand corrected.
So I think
It's
it is-
called for noise production.
Okay.
Yeah.
Specifically, it's Bill 18-22, which was introduced June 28th, and that's one currently being reviewed by county council, but the basis for it is on noise reduction, and that the gas powered ones operate generally around 90 decibels. They want you to use battery powered ones, but the quietest battery powered is still in excess of the county noise limit.
You know, my neighbor has a battery operated, yeah, and she's out there all day chasing one little leaf. I would take a gasoline one, which she's done in 5 minutes, rather than have it going on all day.
Should be done.
I don't know, I think she'd get all the leaves, but have you seen her in the street? She's in the street too. Okay. Yeah. Anyway.
That's good, that's good. That's good.
Okay. That's it? Okay. Matt, do you or Susan have a? Oh, I'm sorry, Ann. It's all right.
Thank you.
It's 9:15.
I know,
I go to bed at
I will
8
be
o'clock.
very brief.
Take your time.
I just wanted to report out that we had a very successful inaugural Juneteenth event, thanks to many people in this room and many others, both with the town staff and a full group of volunteers. Don't know what exact numbers were, but maybe between 700 and 1,000 people, but I think everyone really appreciated the use of the space and having community groups and an educational aspect, cultural aspect. So we're still working on the follow-up, but expect that we'll be doing this again next year.
I'll tell you, I think for a first time event that we had no idea what to expect, I think we looked very well like we had our act together.
I was
I
told
mean,
that by many
We
people.
really looked like we had our act together. And I mean, and we did, but I mean, it was a couple of nights before the event that we didn't look like we had our act together, but we really did. It was a great event. The weather helped a lot,
Oh my, yeah.
really helped a
You're
lot. Yes, thank
And
you.
we have some beautiful pictures.
Yes, thank you.
Taken by someone here, Connor, that will be hopefully featuring some of
Yes,
the journal.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk royalties.
Proper photo credits will be included. And then a couple of other racial justice committee things. Our next meeting will be July 20th at 7:30, probably on Zoom. And I expect at that meeting, we will talk about throwing together a back to school party. You know, keep it simple, but that was also a really nice community event last year at Kensington House, and I think there's a lot of interest in seeing that continue, so.
Is there a date for that yet?
No,
Okay.
we'll look at doing it probably the Sunday before school starts.
Okay.
Maybe 27th
Okay.
of August, so more to come on that. That's all I have.
All right, I do wanna, Connor has reminded me to thank Mark Hudson and his group of volunteers for the 4th of July bike parade. We had a really good event. Once again, we had great weather. Thank you, Connor. And thank you for the electricity. And so we had, yeah, it's a fairly simple event. There's not a lot of moving parts, but it's really a great event that everybody really enjoys. So, and it's great to see a new generation of children who are now joining
There's
me.
a lot.
There are a lot of them.
And all on popsicles.
Yes, there are. So, yes, so many thanks. Okay. Matt, you or Susan, anything?
No, I'll just.
You wanna talk about the parapets and the veranda?
Well, we know there's issues with it. We'll leave it at that. Neil Stavley is acting as our project manager, and I are meeting with the engineer and contractor Wednesday morning. There's some issues with some flooding still coming back towards the door and the topography of everything. So we'll work on that. So
Yeah.
hopefully I'll have a better answer for you in August. That's all I need.
Okay, and the chimney's done, that's completed.
Chimney's completed. They had to use a few more new bricks than they anticipated. The chimney's completed. We have the new commercial grade hot water heater in the building.
Good.
The plane controls is anticipated to come in maybe late August, which we approved last month, to upgrade our control system for HVAC system. And we should have Chamberlain, Washington coming in to do the parapet at the top of the building. We're putting the bricks. We should have that contract completed. Oh, and they have completed the pay.
They created, oh, yeah,
On faucet, Armory, Mitchell, and Lexington Streets. We are waiting on the subcontractor to come and do the infill on the crosswalks. That probably won't happen until August. And one more thing, we will be bringing the Parkins contractor back. They did not complete everything last week.
Which contractor?
Mullins Markets, they do the, like they outline crosswalks
right.
and stop bars. So we need to finish a few things on Calvert. We're gonna redo the center line on Perry Avenue between University and Connecticut. And we've asked them to also put down thermo at the crosswalks at Howard and Summit. So that'll be part of the August contract.
Howard and Summit.
We are
The
not.
ones that did not,
That's for Matt.
the ones that they did, the county did.
Is this for the ring, is this the ring up front?
Yeah,
We know about
we know what that is.
We know what that
Did you ask, so that you're gonna redo the ones they did?
we are gonna redo Howard and Summit. We are not gonna go into Kensington. At least I
You
was
don't
not-
have to, because they did the,
Okay.
did you call them? Because I saw them painting the speed humps. So
They might have done this. They use basic paint. It's not a wear issue. The sun is hitting those two crosswalks. And that's why
They're
it's
just
deteriorating
fading away.
quickly. So we'll put in thermo.
Next year.
No, in August.
Oh, in August.
No.
Okay.
So they're gonna be,
Okay. But not the ones in Canada, just the
No,
ones
we-
that on,
I went down to Kendar.
and Howard and Summit.
I was not comfortable doing that without council approval.
Okay.
It's just too far outside.
what were you gonna do, the speed humps?
I was looking at doing the speed.
But I think I'm pretty sure they did it, but if they didn't do it with the right paint, we need to help out there.
Okay, all right, well,
It
this
was a
year we're
little,
covered.
little too far
Yeah,
outside the zone without a formal approval.
okay, that's fine.
Yeah, they put the little arrows, or the big arrows on the lead up to it, so to make it more visible. Last week.
That's fine.
Perfect.
Okay, so just one more question. Oh, I do like the double yellow lines on
Yep.
Concord and on the section of Fawcett. I think it's really helpful.
So
So-
it's done to basically narrow the lanes, slow traffic. And specifically on Fawcett, we wanted to kind of, you have cars still in commercial area heading into the residential. Just kind of move to narrow the lanes up there.
Right.
So, we are looking at possibly putting markings at some point down the line on Fawcett to have specific parking spaces. George Buckle also mentioned earlier tonight, they are having some parking issues up in the apartments. So we'll look at that.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. It is public parking though. I think, particularly on the weekends and weekdays after 5. So. All right, Susan, do you have anything?
No.
All right, public appearances. You guys have been very patient. And I see Jack's hand. Actually, I see his real hand. Go ahead, Jack. You're muted. There we go.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, great. First, I have a question. Last night about 10 o'clock, there was a fire engine and a police car on the Kensington Parkway just north of Kent Street. Does anybody know what was going on?
I do not. I've asked one of the residents on Kensington Parkway to see if she can find out if everything is okay with one of her neighbors. And she's yet to make contact with them. So hopefully everything is okay, but I don't know.
Yeah, I drove by this morning and everything looked okay.
And I did too. Everything looked normal. But, anytime there's an ambulance out front of somebody's home, you get a little concerned. So.
Yes. Okay, next, I see the Mobility and Traffic Committee has been busy this month. I wonder if they had an opportunity to consider putting mirrors on the telephone pole on Howard Avenue at the end of Fawcett Street.
I believe that Matt did talk to our traffic engineer. Matt, do you want to convey that?
Yeah, Jack, so we talked with our traffic engineer about possibly putting a mirror on the intersection of Howard at Fawcett, and he advised against it. It does not meet requirements within the uniform code. He also stated that it was liability on behalf of the town if the mirror was moved or if the mirror was misjudged, and we typically see them on private residencies like parking lots and coming out of driveways, and he did not recommend that we move forward with it,
You see them on a number of driveways just driving around.
which are private property and not a public right of way.
Yes, of course.
That's one of his liability concerns.
Okay. Lastly, I have 2 astronomical announcements. On Wednesday, July 13, there will be a full moon, which is also a supermoon, which means that the moon orbit is a little bit closer to the Earth, so the moon will appear a little bit larger. And on Thursday, July 28th into the morning of July 29 will be the peak of the Delta Aquarius meteor shower. They're estimating 20 meteors per hour. The new moon will have set throughout the night, so the conditions will be ideal for viewing.
Thank you,
That's
Joe.
it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Joe, did you have your hand up?
Yes.
Yes, indeed, Mayor Furman, thank you. First of all, the audio tonight has been kind of spotty, and I really couldn't hear very well the town manager's references to the issues related to the parapets at Town Hall. I just wonder if you could maybe speak up and sort of give us an overview again as to what that was all about.
They need repointed to prevent water from leaking into the dump hall.
But the issues that you referred to a few moments ago, what were they?
Joe, can you hear us? The grading on it is off a little bit, so they've got to come and readdress the grading. So there's still water running toward the building. So that's it. We had a big rainy weekend, discovered the issue, and we'll take it up with them on Wednesday.
All right, good, thanks. That's all I needed to know. Just a little audio clarity. And secondly, I have to say I was really pleased by the outcome of last month's town elections for the town council. Ann Lichter brings some really good ideas to the council, as we've heard tonight. And I thought that Nate Engel's reelection was deeply merited, especially given his commitment, his obvious commitment to town issues and his very friendly, constituents-oriented service to the town, which is really very, very welcome. And I really do hope that the council is not always in lockstep, as it often has been over the years, and that there's some daylight between the council members and their opinions. I think that unanimity in a routine fashion is not always good, and not all issues merit unanimous consent. So I do hope the council entertains and encourages dissenting views among themselves and allows us to be aired perhaps even more often. But thanks, Mayor Furman.
Thank you, Joe. Okay, I don't see any other hands. So we will move on to the resolutions, ordinances and resolutions. Sure, we've done number 3, right? Okay. So number 1, Matt?
Mayor and Council, resolution number R-16-2022 is a resolution of the Mayor and Town Council of Kensington supporting participation in the Sustainable Maryland Municipal Certificate Program. With the resolution, we provided just a little background about Sustainable Maryland, and Councilmember Engel has been speaking with them about this process.
Sure, so the state, we sent a letter for the town supporting this program at the state level. They were working to get state financing for it for the first time in the budget, and they were successful in securing the funding. And basically what it does is it supports towns with pursuing more sustainable activities, or to be able to be designated as a sustainable Maryland community. It involves a couple of steps. I think there's over 50% of the municipalities in Maryland are in the process of getting this. So it's good. I think it'd be really good for us to move forward with seeking this designation. It involves passing a resolution, which would be tonight, that says we have an intention to pursue it, and that we also will do so by forming a green team, which we would do, and I would share this, I believe, with Councilmember Lichter, for the year to put together what we have to do to accomplish getting the designation. So it's basically an an ad hoc green team that we would put together for this year to pursue it, but then we would need to have some sort of team like that in perpetuity to make sure that we're continuing to push the agenda and be a sustainable community. It gives us benefits of having a network of other municipalities to share ideas, how to improve, share lessons. There's materials that we can pull from that are made available for us. But it's, you know, one of the things that we look at, for example, is getting solar installed on Town Hall, doing other initiatives that could reduce emissions, improving stormwater, anything you can think of, you know, we would look at as a green team for where we could get this designation. So that's what this is about.
I just want to say a couple words. I just want to thank Nate and Ann for volunteering to be on this green team and to also want to follow through with this Sustainable Maryland. It had less to do with the fact that the state is now providing some funding. I think we would have been able to do it without the funding, but it takes leadership and it's going to take a lot of time. And this is something we looked at a year or so ago, and we were not able to find the time to pull this together, but I feel very confident this time that it will be successful. And so I really want to appreciate Nate and Ann's commitment to following through on this, because it will take a tremendous amount of time on their part to really make this successful. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, we will actually be putting a call out for residents, community members to participate in this green team, because we'll need as much passion and expertise that we can get. So be on the lookout for a call for that in the town journal and also listserv, and we'll generate the announcements. And thank you for clarifying. We will not get money for this to do this. It's all volunteer. The financing that was secured was so they could run the program of support for getting other communities that.
So thank you. Anyway, so council, any other questions? No, anyone from the audience? Any hands? Nick, would you like to make a motion?
Sure, I do. Before the motion, I have to, I've got it here. Yeah, I need to suggest, before we're adopting it, to amend the resolution
Okay.
to add that at the end of the paragraph that begins with now, to say,
Two
now therefore be
Okay.
it further resolved.
Okay.
That we would add the establishment of a green team, so it would be read, registration on behalf of the town and establish a green team to support the certification process. Okay.
Right, would you like to make a motion? Let's see.
Sure, yeah, I would move to adopt resolution R-16-2022 as amended. Any more clear about that?
No.
Okay.
Okay, is there a second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, number 2.
Mayor and Council, before you is resolution number R-17-2022. A resolution of the Mayor and Town Council of the Town of Kensington authorizing the town manager to accept the proposal from Ricci Drywall and Painting Company Incorporated for certain drywall repair and painting at the Kensington Town Hall. Within the resolution is the scope of work we requested, proposal from Ricci Drywall for, and also attached is Exhibit A, which gives a breakdown. We are requesting that the council approve an amount not to exceed $15,500 to cover any additional change orders or costs during the work.
Everybody understand what work's being done here?
It's all in the drill hall with the exception of one item in
That. It's not good to have plaster falling down. Council, any questions regarding this resolution?
None.
Okay. Anyone in the audience, question regarding the resolution? Seeing any hands, would somebody like to make a motion?
Move that we adopt resolution number R-17-2022 for the not to exceed amount of $15,500.
Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Great. Number 4, we've already done 3.
Council, before you is resolution number R-19-2022, a resolution of the mayor and town council authorizing the town manager to establish no parking or standing along the east side of the 10,400 block of Armory Avenue from Mitchell Street to 30 feet north, and 2-hour parking 7:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Monday through Friday along the west side of the 10,400 block of Armory Avenue from 25 feet south of Mills Avenue to 40 feet north of Mitchell Street. Passed along, quick diagram of Mitchell Street for you. What we're trying to do is create a greater sight line at the intersection of Mitchell and Armory for vehicles that are coming down Mitchell to turn north onto Armory. There was also an existing bus stop that is now moved and is no longer there. So we're removing that sign and creating a 2-hour parking zone. It currently states 1 hour, so we'll be creating an entire stretch of 2 hours of parking. This is part of our review as we look at Brookwood School, where we're trying to make some improvements with their arrival and dismissal. And this was a recommendation of our traffic.
And I believe on Mitchell Street, there are no restrictions, is that no time restrictions on Mitchell, but we're adding 2 hours?
No, that's we broke them up in a resolution.
Oh, I'm sorry.
we're
Okay,
just
we're
looking
just
at
talking
one-
about Armory.
Yeah, we
Sorry.
broke it up for just so future staff
That's fine.
has a better idea of finding it.
That's sorry, I'm not jumping ahead.
So we're just dealing with Armory Avenue on this resolution. Essentially, we're creating more parking. We're adding a couple parking spaces where there was a bus stop that is no longer there, and then cleaning up some of the sightline issues down at the intersection.
And an hour is not really enough to do anything.
It's the last place where we have an hour left in the town. We're trying to go to, our preference is 4, in other areas we're posting 2.
Council, any questions?
Just for clarity, the bus stopping removed is the one mid-block here where the 2 blue emblems are.
It's Route 4, right?
Yeah.
And
Because
then
it doesn't matter where anymore.
the bus stop that used to be closer to Knowles.
We'll be parking now.
Okay,
So it will be 2-hour parking. And traffic engineers can try to change those signs this week. So it just creates a few more parking spaces for our.
Any other questions? Any questions from the audience? Seeing hands? Okay, somebody like to make a motion?
good, yeah.
No, this is it 1920?
Yeah.
19.
Okay, because you said we split it, so sure. All right, I move we support resolution number R-19-2022.
Second.
Yes.
Gee, we just went over this.
Any seconds? Is there a second? He
I
went through his second. I hate it when people disagree with
second.
all those in favor.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Reached the last item.
All right.
Next item, Mayor and Council, before you is resolution number R-20-2022. A resolution of the Mayor and Town Council authorizing the town manager to establish 2-hour parking, 7:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Monday through Friday along the north side of Mitchell Street from 25 feet west of Fawcett Street to 40 feet east of Armory Avenue, with the exception of the following restriction zones. The first is 2 reserved parking ADA zones along the north side of Mitchell Street with 20 feet in length each. These are essentially handicap spaces, 2 of them. And 1 no parking anytime, which will be designated as the loading zone along the north side of Mitchell Street of 20 feet in length between Armory Avenue and Fawcett Street. What the traffic engineer is trying to do here is we have some issues specifically with dismissal at Brookwood in the afternoon, and we also had some issues with the town's trash collector exiting Town Hall, and we also also have an egress issue with a residential driveway apron on Mitchell. So what the traffic engineer is asking for is he wants to set the perimeters of no parking from a certain point to the corners, which are standard. And then he wants to create a window that will incorporate 2 handicap spaces, 1 loading zone, and everything else designated as a 2-hour park. We don't know exactly where we're gonna put everything yet. He wants to monitor it to see if he can move it. So what he's asking for here is a window of that section that will include 2 ADA spaces, the loading zone, and the remaining spaces permitted to 2 hours of parking.
And the ADAs will most likely be near the 2 ramps on Mitchell Street.
Correct. So he, we want to monitor this when school's back in session. The resident on Foster that has the driveway apron on Mitchell, we want to see how it works. Work with schools putting together an arrival and dismissal plan currently. It will be sent out to all the parents beginning in August. We have also purchased a number of traffic cones and visuals that we are allowing them to use during the school year to help parents kind of show where they can park, where they can't. Obviously, we're directing parents to try to park at the town hall garage or parking lot where they can. And they're also dividing up the dismissal. 5th grade and lower will be Boston Street and Mitchell Street. 6th grade and higher dismissal will be on Armory Avenue. So again, kind of want to see this in motion before we figure out what else we need to do, but to start, so Joe can kind of figure out how we'll proceed.
So are the signs there now? It looked like there was already.
He will be moving the signs after the resolution in preparation for the school year, and then if there's issues going forward, instead of having to come back to the council, if we need to move the signs within that area, Joe will have the ability to move them.
I think the only signs that are up right now are the ADA and then you can't park from here to the corners. So they're gonna take away the handicap spaces?
He's just gonna move them along
Okay.
the road.
Still be there, but this will make it possible, and I saw that Miriam was on earlier, I don't think she was able to hang in for the whole time.
Alex and I did meet with her earlier
Oh, good.
today.
Okay.
We kind of went over, and we did explain to her that this is not the final plan. We just kind of want to see how it works and if we need to move some signage around.
Okay.
We will. There was a loading zone that was on the street previously in yellow. The traffic engineer does not want to put that back this time. He wants to see how this works. Before we put it in the
I mean, the loading area is for the church. It's not. So I just want to make sure that that's clear, because that's a lot of times people are parked there to unload handicapped people.
Right.
As well as food is a big thing that comes in that way. And it goes up the ramp. So, that is, but typically, a car shouldn't be parked there more than maybe 15 minutes while they unload and take run inside or, food depending on what it is, right? It is a loading zone. It is the church. So.
No, but I appreciate that you looked at it and
Yes.
figured out a solution that you're gonna test and then adjust. based on what
Right.
happens.
Yeah, I mean, we don't ever anticipate a school going there, we're not built for it. Alex and I received a lot of feedback when we started communicating with residents about the ADA upgrades. So we've kind of been working with Joe and our street contractor to address those. Last few months.
Any questions from the council? Any questions from the audience? Yes. Somebody like to take a motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution number R-20-2022.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. We did touch on it, we kind of started a little late, but we did have the organizational meeting. I believe in the summary that will go out, we'll list the people that will be chairing, the council members that will be chairing the committees. All the committees will be chaired by a council member. So that's one small change that the council would like to make. So
residents are invited, obviously, to serve on the committees, but the council will be serving as the chairs. That way we will have consistency with meeting times, reports, and that sort of thing. So that is just one thing we did. Cancel that decision. Okay, I think we've been through the agenda. I think I told Ann it was gonna be a long meeting, so make sure she took a nap. And we fulfilled that. And once again, we will be having a work session, I believe it was on the 26th, is that right? At 7 o'clock. That will be done by Zoom. And then we will meet in August 11th for our town council meeting, and that too will be by Zoom, the August meeting. All right, I need a motion to adjourn. And I'll ask.
I'll motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
I second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you very
Good
much.
night, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.